emergency stereophonic sound for the home is recorded on two separate tracks, each one giving special emphasis to certain sections of the orchestra, as heard from those positions. Now, when played back simultaneously on two separate systems, the sounds are blended together to achieve a new dimension in sound impossible to obtain in a monaural recording.
It is a beautiful Friday. Good morning. Welcome back. Nathan Ivy Show. I'm live, local, and vocal. All right, let me give you a heads up as to what you can expect from today's show. I'm scheduled to be joined this morning at about 8:30 a.m. approximately, so in about 20 minutes, by Eve Bolton. Eve Bolton is a current member of the Cincinnati School Board. Of course, that election's next week. At 9:15 a.m., I'm scheduled to speak with John K. Coleman, who is a current Hamilton County magistrate, and he's running for municipal court judge as well. So, and we may get a chance to talk with some other candidates as well. Okay, I kind of got a confirmation, but I want to put it out there until I get the real absolute confirmation. But good morning to you. So how's the last 24 hours been treating you? What's going on in your world? What's on your radar screen? What are people talking about right now? What's hot? What's relevant? It's a Friday, and oh man, feels great. But damn, Friday's kind of like Saturday for me at this point in my life. Like all the days are the same, quite honestly. The only day that's kind of different is Sunday. Sunday, I typically slow down a little bit. Typically. Or my body says, Negro, sit your ass down. Either one. Either one could be true. Not sure. You can pick based off your own experiences. We need a Gilligan of the week. I have a nominee. His name is Kirk Franklin. That's right. Now, I know Kirk Franklin, for some people, he's very near and dear to your heart. I understand it. He's an inspiration. He's touched millions of lives around the globe. But this week, he is definitely a serious candidate for Gilligan of the week. They're trying to stir up some racial boycott against the Dove Awards and the GMAs. That's the Gospel Music Awards. If you didn't know, I found out this week too. And something tells me that if you did a little digging into the history of the GMAs and their cultural role in the inspirational gospel, genre, I'm sure there's a lot of question marks. Kirk Franklin's talking about how they need to change and diversify and make pledges to the community to help lift up. I'm like, damn, yo. All because he doesn't know how to write a speech. Bad speech placement. He wants to get up there and tell corny jokes and beat his chest like he's the Michael Jordan of inspiration music. And then he wants to get to Tatiana Jefferson after that. I bet you a lot of people have outraged, haven't even seen it. Ain't even seen it. Go check it out. He's my nominee. Do you have one? I see Ben Lindy's Conscious is in here. It writes, good morning, Elect Coleman. Yates been there forever. Yates been there forever. Thank you, Ben Lindy's Conscious. Good to see that Ben Lindy has a conscience. He had a lot of conversation yesterday around Ben Lindy. How'd that sit with you? We had a lot of conversation about that. And, oh, that's hilarious. That is hilarious. It's going down. It's going down next week. I mean, I wish we had 2 more weeks of the election. That'd be great. I'd have no problem with that for multiple reasons. But what's on your mind? If you want to share your thoughts before we talk to Eve Bolton, or maybe you want to get some questions together, please feel free to do so. You can shoot them to me, and I will shoot them to her. Okay. I don't know anything about Eve Bolton. I want to learn more. Let's learn more together. This music. This morning. Let's do it. Let's do it together. That's the best way to do it, right? Did you see the now viral video of a young black female? She's a college student. She was in a dorm room. Police? What? She ends up being dragged out of her dorm room. The whole time she's saying, that's my dorm room. That's my dorm room. I want to make a point, if you've seen that video, is that I get it. I get it, people. I get it, black people. I get it, people in general that can be brutalized by cops, and that's anybody. I get it. In the moment, you're upset, and you think you can talk your way out of it, but you cannot. If you're not prepared to do what you got to do to get away and escape, which could mean, going through the police officer or the law enforcement individual, then I don't know. I think in most cases, it might be best, especially when I see females. Like if brothers want to wild out, you want to take your chances, I feel differently than if it's a female. Did she wild out? I wouldn't say wild out. I would say she was just emotional, mad. She's like, this is my dorm room. They dragged her out. Yep. Because when the boys say it's time to go, it's time to go. Just telling you. I'm not saying you got to get on your knees. I'm bringing you to the real world. I'm bringing you to the real world, and I'm just telling you. You're going to have to fight that battle. Hopefully you got some video going. In today's days and age, man, everybody should have their own video. You should know in your brain, you should already have the muscle memory to get that video camera out, man, because that might be the difference between some dollars and no dollars or some charges and no charges. If it ain't caught on video, everything's on video these days. And you can't trust law enforcement because sometimes their video doesn't work. Somebody didn't turn it on. Things happen. Things happen. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. Thanks to all the people that checked out the Truth to Power podcast, that live stream yesterday. Please share it, like it. What's up, JD? Good morning to you. Yeah, somebody posted, I think it was JD. She posted that inside of the Friends page this week. It's up there right now, actually, about Mike Morosky. He apparently this is his Facebook page. Says he's submitting his high-level budget priorities. Healthy school start times, peer mediation programming, 1 hour of physical activity every day, period products in every school available for free in the bathroom, pedestrian safety clubs in every school, a budget for student voice, Hyde Park School and Spencer Center expansion, begin looking at a third Montessori high school, investigate what an Oakley neighborhood school would look like, authentic implicit bias training and racial equity workshops for teachers. Man, he's a current member of the school board. So as we're talking about all these folks, there's members of the school board on there right now. We must discuss. This is my dorm room. I see Jesse posted 2 hours ago from the Atlanta Black Star. That's a credible news source. And she was dragged out of her apartment by the police under some false BS. You know what I'm saying? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. What is wrong with the white family? Nobody in the media will explore that. What is wrong with the white family? And again, this wasn't a small occurrence. I mean, people have hit the streets about this. Black Lives Matter. This happened back on September 27th at her unit at Frequency Apartments in Washington, D.C. And apparently there's a conflict between the police reports and what she is saying. At some point, you can hear her saying, they're dragging me. Her name is Gianna Wheeler. They're dragging me. She got the locks going on. Looks like a beautiful, proud sister. And I don't know if there's any non-white officers there, but I see 2 white officers there. There's like 3 of them. They're grabbing her and like they're just going to, everybody grab a limb. American University students have rallied around Gianna Wheeler. Yeah, so they've been protests, Black Lives Matter in D.C. This is their Twitter, going back to October 28th. Oh, by the way, happy November to you. This is Black Lives Matter Black Lives Matter DC on Twitter. My brain and my mouth will catch up here in a minute. Quote, when a black student is under attack, what do we do? Question mark. Rise up. Fight back. Live. Yeah, they're saying black students are under attack. Quote, what should have been the university's earnest concern about the mental and emotional well-being of the student was weaponized and used to permanently traumatize Gianna. It's going down. It's going down. Quote, one police officer also took the time to mock and threaten that she was going to be on suspension from the school. This was at American University, so it's issues bubbling up all over the country. I'll play the audio for you here in a second, man, but damn. So I get it. I'm not mad at her. Like, if you feel that way and you like, man, you're going to have to drag me out of here, then get drug out. Let them drag you out. They drug Tracy Hunter out. You know what I'm saying? You will be dragged out. And if you don't mind people putting their hands on you, at some point in the video, she's like, stop touching me, because as Americans, we have a big sense of our space. Like I've been told in other countries, they have a different sense of their own personal space. In some countries around the world anyway, the sense of your personal space is smaller. In America, we have a big sense of our space. Like, we feel some kind of way if a motherfucker put their hands on us, right? I mean, that's not a small thing to Americans. And for females, come on, man. African-American females? In this days and time? Come on, yo. You already know. So in the audio, you can hear it. Stop touching me, the whole 9 yards. I mean, again, in most cases, the citizen doesn't win. You don't win that. And if you're willing to go to jail, okay, I respect it. They're saying she's traumatized, huh? Traumatized? Really? Seems a little in order. Cassandra writes, happy Friday, choppers. Pamela writes, good morning, Nate and the choppers. Ben Lindy's Conscious is in here. AKA Fame, I believe. Ray writes, Grand Risings Hall. Tiffany writes, morning. Sharp writes, TGIF choppers. What's popping for the weekend? I know Tracy got big plans, right? Big birthday coming up. Brenda writes, happy Friday. Good to see everybody. Brian, who is still a GSW fan, huh? You gonna ride and die, huh? He writes, good morning. Bunky writes, what's up, Nate and the choppers? Tracy writes, hi. Lynn writes, good morning, great people. Eb G writes, great morning, good people. Happy Friday. Corinthia writes, morning. Mason Marler writes, morning, Nate and the choppers. TGIF. Wonder Twin Powers, activate. Form of an impeachment. Oh, man, you got to be old enough to get that, but I do remember. I get it. Ashley writes, good morning, Nathan and the choppers. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you and baby chopper, Ashley. Happy Friday to you. Sharp writes, why all what he started catering to the east side of the CPS? Don't really understand. I see Elisa's Family's Fried Fish is in here. What's up, Elisa's Family Fried Fish? First time I'm seeing you. All are welcome. Elisa's Family Fried Fish writes, learn to restrain yourself when police get involved. The more you scream, fuss, and fight, the more intense the altercation will become. And that's the point I'm trying to get to. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's a way to be outraged and not put yourself in unnecessary harm, or physical, contact. Unless you're like, I'm about that life and it's about your conscience and you want to be drugged out. Your buddy's got, 2 cameras across the street. They're going to put on a YouTube channel. I mean, if that's your purpose, okay. But for females, black females, I get it. A lot of passion. You don't want to have to go through this. But it goes back to what I told people from day one. Black people in America have to be prepared to go to jail at any moment because you might have to stand your ground. Let that sink in. You got to be mentally ready for that. You know what I'm saying? You got to visualize that process because you might have to. Somebody could come into, I'm in the office space on the west side. I'm over there right now. Somebody could come into this, somebody could knock on the door. Could be police right now. And they could say some shit that makes me have to end this show. I got to go downtown now. It could happen. It could happen. And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that we got to be mentally and emotionally prepared for this. Now, what does that mean? That means they're going to place you under arrest. They're going to put your hands behind your back. You should be practicing this. I ain't joking. You should be ready for this because you might be in a situation where you got to stand your ground for your constitutional rights. And the process means you might have to get processed. And that's just what it is. You might have to get processed to stand your ground. I don't recommend you. I see people wilding out. I get it. You're justified. It's completely justified. It's just not smart. It's just not a smart move. It's just not a smart move in my opinion, but we shall see. We shall see. So you got to be prepared. Got to be prepared. Get some of that insurance. Get some of that insurance that if you have to call your lawyer or, you got to get some bail money. Everybody knows the concept rainy day fund. Part of that is your legal rainy day fund. You might have to get a lawyer real quick. If you got arrested today, are you prepared? If not, good thing is you can get prepared because you may have to, just like this student did. She was like, man, bump that. Y'all gonna have to drag me up out of here. And they did. Now it gets caught up in the legal system. And unfortunately, the way that, depending on your judge, they might look at the way that you were processed, or it was a difficult arrest. They might use that against you. And look here, Judge, look, we got it on body cam. See, when citizens wild out, they always get that on body cam. Always. We're not going to forget to get that. Oh, man. Citizens start wilding out like, hey, Judge, we got the body cam right here. Oh, let me say it. And you on there wilding out, cussing people out. It's just going to be a bad look for you. You're not going to win on the side of the road. You might win in court. But what you do on the side of the road is going to come back and swing back around to court. There's just no way around it. Yeah, it's just no way around it. But what do you think? All right, I'm going to take a quick pause, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Stereophonic sound for the home is recorded on 2 separate tracks, each one giving special emphasis to certain sections of the orchestra, as heard from those positions. Now, when played back simultaneously on two separate systems, the sounds are blended together to achieve a new dimension in sound impossible to obtain in a monaural recording.
This is Bishop Bobby Hilton. I support Janaea Trotter Bratton for District 1 Judge. We must hold candidates to the highest moral standards. Janaea shows integrity and is a Democrat that works hard for all those in our community. Janaea did not and would not sell out her values just to get a seat. Her opponent cut a deal with Republicans to become a magistrate and has continued to be Republican even under the Trump administration, something she fails to mention. But Janaea's opponent never forgets to mention her ties to a soul food restaurant ran decades ago, as if fried chicken will fool us into thinking she will fight for a fair judicial system. It's the same Republican playbook, assuming blacks are dumb enough to ignore facts and be swayed by down-home talk. Let's tell Miss Soul Food there's not enough fish plates in the world to make up for a lack of integrity and experience. Don't be fooled. A vote for the Republican is a vote for Trump's racist agenda. A vote for Janaea is a vote for justice.
Paid for by the Hamilton County Democratic Party.
Hello, this is Ron Dumas. Now is the time to vote for the only candidate that's never prosecuted hundreds of our people, who has never testified in a judge's trial, and sadly, that judge was found guilty of that very offense.
Our people died for your right to vote. Please do not let anyone or anything take away your freedom of choice. There is freedom and power in your vote. I still remember the image of Miss Jane Pittman. Please don't let anyone assume that they have your vote just because they hand you a paper or a ticket. We are smart people.
Now is the time to vote for Judge Elisa Murphy, who is fair, just, and the most experienced, who has been on the bench a total of 16 and a half years, who has fought on the front lines with Judge Leslie Isaiah Gaines, who has over 25 years of experience as a defense attorney, who is from Evanston, and her family own the Old Southern Restaurant in the West End.
I am honored to follow Judge Leslie Isaiah Gaines, Judge John Burlew, and Judge John Skip West, who all came from this balanced, nonpartisan district. Please vote for your homegrown judge, Judge Elisa Murphy.
Paid for by Murphy for Judge.
This is State Senator Cecil Thomas here, urging you to write in Ozzie Davis when you vote November 5th, and vote for Eve Bolton and Carolyn Jones. And also on your ballot, vote Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board. They've been working hard together on our school board to improve our schools. Our kids deserve their consistent, strong leadership. Remember to vote November 5th. Write in Ozzie Davis and vote for Eve Bolton, Carolyn Jones, and vote for Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board.
This is Pamela Bowers, and I approve this message. Paid for by Bowers for the Board.
This is retired Judge Fanon Rucker. I served District 1 for 12 years, retiring from the bench this September. And when it comes to replacing me on the court, to me, there's one clear choice: Janaea Trotter Bratton. Janaea was born and raised in Cincinnati, started her legal career in the municipal court, and has worked for years as a civil rights lawyer. She's a leader in our community, recognized by the NAACP and by the YWCA as a rising star. As a judge, I know Janaea will make our justice system work for everyone, and she will do it with compassion and fairness. So whether you live in Avondale or Evanston, Walnut Hills, the West End, or Mount Auburn, the people of District 1 need Janaea Trotter Bratton on the bench. She is the only Democrat in this race, and she has my full support. So on November 5th, vote Janaea Trotter Bratton for judge.
Thank you, Judge Rucker. It is an honor to have your endorsement. I ask you to elect me, Janaea Trotter Bratton, as the first black woman to be elected to this judicial seat.
Paid for by the committee to elect Janaea Trotter Bratton judge.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. A quick break. Currently 8:33 a.m. in the Queen City. Nathan Ivey with you. And as I said earlier, I'm scheduled to speak with Eve Bolton, who is a current member of the Cincinnati School Board. And we have Eve Bolton on the line right now. Let's go straight to the line. Hey, Eve, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me? You hear me fine?
Yes, I can.
All right. Now, are you on speaker? Because it would be better if we're not.
Is that better?
I think that is better. Yeah. Hey, good morning.
Okay, cool.
Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much.
So just so you know, Eve, the Nathan Ivey Show is a daily digital show based in Cincinnati. We kicked it off 3 years ago, and it's a part of a larger network called Sin Digital Media. We produce media for the urban community here inside the I-275 loop. And I'm on every day from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. on the internet. So just so you know, just FYI for the future.
Well, that's great. I've heard you a few times, and particularly, paid attention during this school board election time, and I've enjoyed listening.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for being here this morning. So let's just jump straight into it. Give us a sense of who you are. I don't know anything about Eve Bolton. Are you from the city of Cincinnati? Did you grow up in Cincinnati? Did you graduate from a CPS school?
Yes, I'm a native Cincinnatian, and I am a proud graduate of Cincinnati Public, K-12, and graduated from Aiken High School. And after I graduated from CPS, I went to college and got a political science degree and a teaching certificate, and I spent my professional life teaching high school and social studies and theater at Wyoming High School.
Okay. And, why'd you make the decision to run for school board? How long have you been on the school board?
I am currently closing out my 12th year. When I retired from teaching, a number of people asked me to run because at that time, 12 years ago, there was some very difficult kinds of relationship issues between the board and the superintendent, who was Mrs. Blackwell at the time. And also the district was in disarray. Enrollment was going down, and the facilities master plan that the taxpayers so generously granted to the tune of $1.2 billion was sort of staggering and stumbling. So there were some real issues, and most particularly, I saw the great divide, if you will, academically, particularly between our neighborhood schools and our magnets, and more particularly between some of our high schools and most of our high schools. So I thought it would be good for me to use whatever skills I might have and offer myself up. And fortunately, I've been elected and then reelected, and I'm hoping to have that happen again.
Speaking with Eve Bolton, she's a current member of the Cincinnati School Board. And of course, folks, the election is tomorrow. I'm sorry, next week, not tomorrow. The election is next week. So this is great, Eve, because I've talked to a lot of different school board members, but and people who are running candidates who've never been on the school board. But I think for me, I really like to talk with the folks who've been there because you've been there for a while. Now, do you have the longest tenure on the city's school board with the current makeup?
There are currently two people on the board, myself and Mrs. Melanie Bates, who have more than 10 years. I am the most experienced person running in this particular field, whether it's the 2-year unexpired term or the 4-year full term. But actually on our board, it's kind of exciting. We have one person with less than 1 year's experience. We have 3 people with less than 2. And we have one person with less than 5. So it's a great mix of experience and relative inexperience. And I think that's why I believe the board has become much more representative of a more diverse and kind of new insight sort of grouping.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what that means. That means that everything that's going on with CPS is your fault, right? Because
absolutely,
you know
I
how
take
it goes.
Full responsibility.
Absolutely. So why are you running for re-election? What's left to be done, Eve? I mean, you've been there 12 years now. What's left to be done? Why are you running for re-election?
A great deal needs to be done. I think we've gone through a decade of tremendous turnaround. You know, when I first got on the board, we were closing schools. Now we're opening schools. When we first got on the board, not all of our high schools had counselors or advanced placement opportunities. When I first got on the board, we had a very limited number of kids in preschool. Now we have almost 2,000 children in preschool. So the other piece of it is that we've got this strategic plan that we've actually worked on, the first one in 13 years, that sort of sets the course for the next 3 years. And I'd like to be able to use some of my experience to help oversee that. It falls to the responsibility of the administration to implement it, but the board needs to be overseeing it because it actually is a community-designed strategic plan. So the board needs to be on and experienced and working hard to make sure that the community is represented. So that needs to be done. And two challenging things that are particularly of interest to me is how we're going to manage this growth by expanding not only our facilities but our programming. But the other piece is that due to the leadership of the superintendent, CPS has really fully engaged in expanding our career options for all of our kids at all of our schools, starting actually at fourth grade. And we're doing stuff that is really going to provide sort of home campuses at all of our high schools for at least one or two of the career plans that are, adopted, if you will, by the U.S. Labor Department. So we'll have home campuses for not only the healthcare and IT, but also finances and public service and any kind of culinary, if you will, hospitality pathways, arts and letters pathways. So those are two areas. Growth and the expansion of the career opportunities are two of my focus areas.
Those are your focus areas. Well, okay. What's the plan I thought you might say that part of your focus area would be, we know we have some failing schools, and we know this is a multi-layered issue, correct? In terms of schools that are failing in CPS. And so from the outside looking in, as a CPS parent, I'd like to know what the plan is to address those failing schools from the school board perspective, from your perspective.
Sure. And as a person that, spent my life teaching and worrying about other kids, other people's kids, that's a focus. But the overall focus for me, let me preface this by saying two things. I don't believe that even though there are Fs by some of our schools, particularly our high schools, that they are necessarily failing schools, but they are poorly rated schools. And the reason in part that they're poorly rated, and God knows there's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done at all of our schools, even the ones that aren't poorly rated, as we really embrace what the future looks like for our kids in employment and furthering their education. I see that they're poorly rated because, first of all, the state report card is developed and has been implemented by people that have ulterior motives. Our particular report card that the state of Ohio uses punishes you if you have high poverty, it punishes you if you have high diversity, and it punishes you if you have a significant number of special ed kids, and it significantly punishes you as well if indeed not only is the mobility and the diversity, but it punishes you too if you are, have to take high-stake testing, which represents more than half of what's evaluated. And who writes those tests? They're not people that look like our folks. They're not people that are necessarily urban leaders or even out of 600 and some school districts. That report card measures wealth more than it measures achievement. And there's a group, and I'm on it, representing Cincinnati Public, that is trying to advise the governor and advise the state legislature and the Ohio Department of Ed to let's have a more meaningful report card. But having said that, you're right. Every one of our schools, even the ones that are highly rated, can stand great improvement. And I think we've been working on that, particularly with the Vision 2020, where we've recalculated and recalibrated, if you will, our neighborhood schools, and where we're also offering far more programming at the high school level.
So what are you saying to CPS parents as it relates to that report card that comes out every year? Are you saying that we can just throw it in the trash, that it's not useful at all?
No. Look at it. We're happy to be held accountable, and we use that report card. Our professionals use that report card for guidance because we know that there are parts of it that make sense and help us design for the future. But what I would say to a parent is we do not have failing schools. We have poorly rated schools because people have put a letter grade. I'll give you an example. We have 98% of our third graders that are promotable to the fourth grade. 98%. That's like a suburban number. But we get like a C in it because even though it's a 98%. Why? Because they are tracking the number of kids, if you will, on that rating that need additional help. Well, we're always going to need, many of our children are always going to need particular help and greater support because they're suffering, if you will, from a very, very confusing and sometimes dangerous, even toxic community experience. Give you another example. Our graduation rate is 78%, and yet that gets an F. In my book, in 36 years of teaching, 78% is a C+. But they put that letter grade because they say you should have 100%. Well, it's virtually impossible for an urban district to get 100% graduation, because that doesn't mean the seniors that dropped out their senior year. The way they measure it is that you're starting in your 9th grade year, and you have to get all the way through your 12th grade year at the same school in the same place. And the reality is we have such mobility in this tri-state area that not everybody can be tracked. Or even this is interesting. There's a 5-year opportunity too for graduation. When you put that together with a 4-year, it's higher than 78%. But more particularly, the state law allows many of our children to stay in school because they have particular special needs till they're 21 or 22 years of age because of their particular needs. They all count against you, even though state law allows them. So the report card, follow it, learn it, read all the pages of it, but understand that other people that put that thing together had ulterior motives, and we can go into that, what that may mean, but that the rating system is really geared to injure, if you will, those school districts that have great diversity, great poverty, and more particularly are teaching children not only of poverty, but teaching children who are immigrant children and also children of color. I mean, it's obvious when you look at the 600 and some school districts that it's measuring wealth more than anything.
Measuring wealth, okay. So what should change with the Ohio, report card? What do you think they should be doing differently to make it more, maybe fair to Cincinnati Public Schools? I think the first thing that we need to do is, first of all, take away the letter grades and stand by the percentages. Because I live by the percentage. That's all the federal government requires you to do is we want you to know what our results are. But we also don't want those people in Columbus taking our results and extrapolating some other meaning to them, or make it clear what you're measuring, because you have 98% of the kids that are promotable, but that additional, what I call aftermath from Columbus, says, but we're looking at all the children that need special help or may not be on track. Well, if you have 20% special needs kids and you have children also of poverty and you have an immigrant population, of course they're not going to be on track like the kids that I taught at Wyoming, because the reality is they are coming from a very different circumstance. So be more aware of the circumstances, measure the whole child sorts of measurements, like do we offer the health care, what's the nutrition piece, what's the support system that we have. Don't just measure high-stakes testing, because that's where our children have the most difficulty. And worrying so much about that may not allow our teachers to really teach. It may just make them ready to figure out how to pass a test. Mm-hmm. It may, or is that what's really happening in CPS?
I got to tell you, I've experienced enough on teaching that academic freedom, having a good lesson and being able to stay longer at that lesson because the kids are interested, those sorts of things that teachers used to be able to do are less likely to happen in this effort where, unfortunately, the high-stakes testing in some of our grades takes place. We've done a lot with the Community Learning Center system where we offer, all kinds of support services. We've also done an awful lot in expanding extracurricular activities. We've done a lot in making sure there is art and music in every single building. People don't know that. So I think that we have to expand the options for children. We have to make sure that they not only have the support of remediation, but there's an awful lot of our kids that are quite gifted, quite skilled, but we may not be offering as good a curriculum as we need to inspire them, particularly at the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, where we think every kid should be, given the most rigorous and exciting and intense kind of curriculum to get them ready for high school. So those are areas where I think we could concentrate more effort.
Let me go to the audience here because people have questions directly for you.
Sure.
Here's a statement. Jordan writes, Everson got an A report card, got an A report card, which is better than both Hyde Park and Spencer Gifted School. Why was this not celebrated on the district website or social media? Are you aware of that?
Well, I think we did celebrate it at the board, and I know that had it not been for our levy effort and our school board campaigns, we had planned to actually go to Evanston to have a board meeting. We also did celebrate their accomplishments, I think, internally, but correctly. The listener is right. We have not emphasized it as much, and I think it's partly because of the preoccupation with this levy that we think is going to be pretty much of a close vote because of this low turnout. But we will be celebrating it even more. Yes, absolutely.
To me, celebrating your successes should be a part of the levy campaign, right?
I agree.
Yeah. We need to make that happen.
Unfortunately, we don't run the PR, so but
that's administration.
Yes, I'm very proud. Matter of fact, one of the things to be celebrated at Evanston is not only our wonderful principal and the community support and the hard work of the kids, but another thing is that there's been a long-term General Electric GE Aviation partnership with the Evanston Jets, and it's one of the less celebrated partnerships. GE's been great at my alma mater. I think they might have single-handedly saved Aiken many years ago when people were talking about closing Aiken. So we need to celebrate not only the great accomplishments of the staff and the children and the principal, but we also need to celebrate those sorts of partnerships like GE.
What does that produce? So what are they doing over there, GE?
They have dozens, and they have for years, dozens of tutors that are assigned to individual children. They take the children out to the aviation center, the learning center out there in GE, and they, take them through the engine building, and they do competitions with the kids. They do projects like
sounds good.
Working in teams. It's just fabulous.
So, Eve, let me go back to the questions here. Iris writes, what is your stance on the public safety high school? Are you willing to get the funding for it?
Oh, yes.
That's CAFA, right?
We've been doing the funding for it. What my concern, and I got a poor rating from the African American Firefighters Group. I think I had the lowest one, largely because what I tried to do is say we need that public safety academy, if that's what we want to call it. But in reality, with the Ohio Department of Ed, it's almost impossible. It is impossible to have anything that even remotely looks like a police academy. The best you can do regarding police efforts before the children are 18 is basically getting them ready for corrections or security officers, because policing requires that the courses and the instruction, you have to be 18 or over. That's why those things happen at a place like Butler Tech. They can't happen at West High. What we can do, and the suburbs do a better job of this than we have, what we can do is emphasize that the Public Safety Academy basically is, for the most part, firefighting and EMT. And we have been subsidizing and supporting that. You'll recall that a few years ago, or 2 years ago, the city passed a charter amendment that should be very beneficial for our kids that graduate from a public safety academy. But the problem is in that same charter change, the city of Cincinnati said we will not fund it in any way, shape, or form. So that put a little bit more of the onus, or all the onus, on us. But we have for 2 years now had a program regarding EMT and firefighting. What they do in the suburbs is that when you have those small fire departments, and I know this from the Wyoming experience, they actually have junior cadets that literally get excused from school to go on runs in those smaller departments.
Right.
There's all kinds of things we can do. I'm happy to call it a public safety academy, but we should not, under false pretenses, let anybody think that we're preparing anybody to be a police officer, because that career credential comes later.
The firefighter, isn't that firefighters, CAFA?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Right. You said police officer, right?
Yeah, you can't really, at the high school level, unless it's a Butler Tech, you're not really preparing people to be police. Your entry-level credential with police versus fire is something for a corrections kind of officer or security officer. All these career credentials, and there are hundreds, perhaps thousands, are granted and recognized by the Department of Ed.
Right.
And I have been glad to hear that the firefighters folks have been able to reach out to ODE, and ODE is willing to help us with that. But they're not going to help us with the police piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's by law. But the firefighting, well, actually, I was hoping for that almost 10 years ago now. And I think West High is a good place for it. But even if we have those home campuses for career, the reality is, and I think Mr. Davis, our member, Ozzie Davis, has emphasized we need to do more distance learning so a kid doesn't necessarily have to go to one school for one particular career. And we've been investigating that. I think he's been a real advocate for us.
Speaking with Eve Bolton. Well, you know what, Eve, let me go back to something here because we was talking about this report card. And, it's like, your answer was that you feel like the report card is biased, basically. And, from a parent perspective, we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we judge how effective our school is? And so, within CPS, you got some variance. We've got some schools that like Evanston and others that are doing well and others that are not. And just for me, if we're going to celebrate the A's and that's legitimate, then the D's have got to be legitimate too, right? Doesn't that just make sense?
Oh, absolutely. That's another reason, very frankly, that I think I mentioned that, you can look at the report card, but you have to look at it with a very discerning eye. If you're like me and you say, listen, overall, it's not very representative, then don't celebrate this and forget about that. Or just don't list the things that look good versus the things that don't look good. You have to look at it overall. And we have to get it to where it's more user-friendly for families. And we have to get it to where it's more informative for the professionals.
I wish it came out earlier. So that parents could make a decision as to whether they want to put their kids back into a failing school. But I know that the timeline doesn't just sync up. I'm sure it takes some time to calculate this kind of stuff. But that, as a parent, that's what would be fair to me. Like if I got the report card before I had to enroll my child for the next year, then I could decide as to whether I want to put my kid there or not, or I need to make some other adjustments.
Yeah, and their timeline is the Columbus timeline. For example, that timeline is so bad in part because of all the aftermath they do with the report cards, whereas if you just publish the results, you could have that in plenty of time for parents to find out. Mm-hmm. But these people up there in some building somewhere sit around for several months extrapolating data and making it be something else rather than let's look at the percentage. And that kind of timeline would allow parents to know. Also, more importantly, don't ever choose a school necessarily till you do a walkthrough.
Right.
And visit it.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know what? We got one of my listeners is dropping some really good questions. I'm just going to step to the side and go straight to her questions. This is Jordan. She wants to know, why does only Walnut Hills offer a variety of AP courses? They are also the only school where UC and Cincinnati State offer courses in the building.
For the reason I mentioned early on, we had for more than a generation, certainly through, I would say, the 80s, well, maybe late 80s through the 90s and the early 2000s, we had a horrible gap. I saw it at my own alma mater, where indeed we separated our high schools and we offered only complete curricula at particular schools, be it Clark Montessori or Walnut or SCPA. Again, that's, as I mentioned, one of the reasons I ran 12 years ago. We've had significant growth in changing that. All of our high schools now have counselors. All of our high schools now have some offerings of both College Credit Plus and Advanced Placement courses, which they did not have 10 years ago or 6 years ago. So that is changing. And we've also adopted curricula that is more, how shall I say it, demanding and rigorous, but also is more widely spread throughout the district. And so those are things that help. But we are trying to overcome, there's no question about it, a gap that existed as the district was in, how shall I say it, demise, as the district was shrinking, as the district, like other urban districts, was on the way out. But in the last 10 years or so, we've been able to make that turnaround. And part of that turnaround now, as member that Bowers has been emphasizing, is the turnaround has to be happening at the high school. And we finally have an assistant superintendent also with tremendous high school experience. So that's, you build as you can, but the reason is that there was discrimination among and between schools, including, as I said, my alma mater. So we are overcoming that gradually and I think incrementally, but there's been some standouts in our high schools where the change is really taking and
right.
making an impact.
What can we do? Because someone wants to know a question about, what's your plan to, as you said, close the gap, the disparities between, students that come, African-American students and non-African-American students in the district. And here's the thing is that when I talk to challengers, people on the board, they say that you guys can be moving faster. They say, I hear it over, you guys, the good people, good direction, they can be done faster. Are they right? Can it be done faster?
I think it can be done faster because we've positioned ourselves to move faster. It's a long distance race. You start out when the gun goes off and you anticipate what you can do. Right now, every one of our academic indicators has been trending upward, whether it's the still low ACT composite score or whether it's the third grade reading guarantee, whatever these may be, or a graduation rate. So incrementally, we have moved to a position where we can now accelerate as a result of the community design strategic plan. Plus, everybody that's running, and I know exactly how they feel, first time and third time, the reality is you can say that you individually are going to do something, but the reality is a board has to work in unison. It's not like a city council where you even are individual. You have to build consensus among all the varying networks and positions. But the people that have said we can move faster, I think they're absolutely right. But I think we can do that now because of these many years of work, many, many years of work, because we're closing that gap between our magnets and our neighborhood schools. We're closing the gap very slowly between the top performing high schools and the other ones. And the way you do it is not just incremental movement, but I'm very proud of the fact that we've been increasing programming. And we've been also being able to increase extracurricular, increase the art and music, so that our children not only have the health services or the nutritional services or the transportation services that are afforded them, but they have programming that is inspiring now, I think, at every one of our high schools.
Speaking with Eve Bolton, she's a current member of the Cincinnati School Board, and the election is next week. Jordan wants to know what's the plan to, well, she writes, research shows that students learn when they have educators that look like them. So what is the plan to recruit more African-American teachers?
Well, it's a problem nationwide. We are aware of it. First and foremost thing we want to be able to say is that the HR people have been doing a very good job of at least expanding their scope as to how they do it. There are a couple things. One, first of all, we need to grow our own educators. 1,000 years ago, when I was in high school, we had, future teachers of America. We need to grow our own because they're loyal to the district and they have a sense of it. We have to also go to every single university that has a particular teaching program focused on urban education and attract all those people. And I don't even mean just in this country. We need to do that worldwide, that kind of attraction. Cincinnati is much more attractive to recruit to, not just Cincinnati Public, but the city itself than it was 10 years ago. Another thing that we need to do is that not only grow our own, but we have wonderful coaches, we have wonderful instructional aides that with our help, and we've been doing this, they can get a degree, an alternative certificate or license, and those are at least 3 paths that we should be going down. The other piece is that people have to recognize that the starting salaries or the future career piece regarding teaching may not be that attractive, especially to minorities that have come from college and have, a successful college experience. They're being recruited by everybody, both in the public sector and the private sector. And if they're interested in education, an awful lot of the folks that are of color or minority status are gobbled up by the suburbs. And frankly, initially, the suburbs are an easier fit, an easier job initially for people to think about making a career.
So, Eve, let's talk about, you said consensus, and that's what being on the school board is all about. Let's go back to a vote that I believe that you were involved in, and that was the whole FC Cincinnati and the deal, Stargell Stadium. What was your vote, and why did you vote that way?
A couple reasons. The vote was 7-0, and it didn't start out as being 7-0. I would say it probably started out being a 2-4 and 5 against initially. One of the reasons that I think we reached unanimity on it was that we came to the conclusion, I don't think it's too cynical to say, but I'm sure the community has figured out that stadium was going to be there no matter what. It was never going to be in Oakley. It was never going to be across the river. It wanted the proximity of downtown. It wanted the proximity, if you will, to over the Rhine and those sorts of efforts. So our issue, two issues. One, it wasn't our responsibility to decide whether or not there would be a stadium. That's a city council decision. That's other people. Our focus was if it's going to be here, and we came to the conclusion that the powers that be would make that happen, we needed to get the money that was deserved by the district and by the children. We had to make sure that Taft was best served, as was Hayes Porter, which is across the street. And we had to make sure that our families could be secure in knowing that Taft would continue no matter what. Taft, historically, in the 1950s, was the only CPS high school that was predominantly African American. And there's great pride about that place. And we had to make sure that if we lost Stargell Stadium, we would get a better one in the same kind of proximity with even a higher profile. So over time and over an awful lot of community engagement at the community, more so than the city council ever did, with compelling testimony by the community, we got the money that was due us. We salvaged an even better situation for Taft and career efforts, and we also got the stadium that we needed. But more particularly, we felt financially we were making the district whole in this terrible era of abatement after abatement. We felt that this was one of the real victories that we had, but it was tough. We had, I think, 2 or 3 board members at the time who spent part of their childhood growing up in the West End.
Right.
We had people on the school board like myself that has been a neighborhood leader in economic development, but the effort to save a neighborhood was prime interest for us. But it evolved, and we got what we thought was best for the district and for the children and for our future.
Speaking with Eve Bolton. So, Eve, take me back to that, because you said initially you had 2 board members that were for it and the rest were against it. Which side were you on? I'm pretty sure. Which side were you on initially?
Initially, yeah. I was against.
Initially, you were against it.
Initially, I was against. And that's the kind of vote that happens, too, over time, because, we're a deliberative body, and we do our deliberation in public.
Right.
And people could watch that evolution. And so I think it's important to kind of recognize that we influence each other. I can easily point to anybody looking at any of the finance records of anybody. Nobody got money. Nobody got anything under the table or over the table.
Right.
This was really an effort to come to grips with it.
Right.
It's like the late start issue. A view evolves. The more information you get, the more input you have.
And I want to talk about that.
It's a fascinating process.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it. I want to understand more about it because, and correct me if I'm wrong and fill in the blanks where necessary, but the issue before the school board was the approval of a land agreement with FC Cincinnati, which was critical to their plans in the West End, right? Is that correct? Like this,
you are completely correct, right. And that was the narrow decision.
Right. So that's why when I hear you say things like, well, it was going to happen anyway, I think, well, if the school board didn't vote for it, what other way was it going to happen? Like this was a critical vote, as I understood it. The deal don't go forward unless the school board signs off on it. So what was the other way that just could have happened?
There's always, first and foremost, eminent domain. Keep that in mind, where the city can determine that. Keep in mind that even though it was a close vote at city council, 5-4 or whatever, that vote can easily change over time. So you have eminent domain. Second, there was already land swaps and changes made. You know, there was a developer that was going to be building houses where we've now built the new Stargell Stadium. That the powers that be were powerful enough to buy them out. The powers that be could easily begin to isolate and make Taft truly an island if they needed to. And I would say, too, I don't want to be so negative about the powers that be.
Do you think the powers that be really would have taken that route, though? Eminent domain?
Oh, sure.
Really?
They would have done it.
Well, why not let them do
absolutely.
it? Why not let them do it and stand your ground as a school board?
Well, because our ground got to be the point as to, how shall we say it? Stand the ground means going to court. Stand the ground means that you delay for 3 years or more. Stand the ground means that you cannot progress and have Taft be in this sort of, what do they call it, this purgatory of not knowing exactly what's going to be happening to it. You had to stand the ground, too. This is also important. We stood the ground on the finances piece. And the finances piece set up where we are in negotiations now with the city regarding abatement. If we said no, absolutely not, then we were probably also foregoing a renegotiation of the abatement agreement that's 20 years old and ends on December 31st. So there's a lot of other things where the school board and the district could be squeezed. And what we did as a board, and it was hard, we said this is our responsibility, the district, the finances and Taft and our downtown schools and our families. So that's what we had to decide. But standing the ground meant 3 years. Standing the ground meant that you were going to be in legal action. Standing the ground for what purpose if we're not protecting what's best for the district?
Have you received any FC Cincinnati campaign contributions or campaign contributions from FC Cincinnati or any affiliated organizations to FC Cincinnati?
No.
Okay. I got to put that in there because from the outside looking in, you know, the deal just changed and we know how things work. So I'm trying to get a sense of what was the moment when you said, you know what, I didn't think this was a good idea, but now I'm going to roll with it. What was that moment?
I tell you, I got more committed against it, the more compelling was the information. So you get more committed against it before you get committed to it. What was the moment was that when I saw it in perspective, two things. It was going to be there. And second of all, it was part of the overall economic development and abatement argument that we still are having with the city, where we are being denied tax revenue for our schools based upon, I think, to some degree, outlandish abatement agreements. So if we could have this victory from an abatement piece, where indeed the developers, I'm sure all good people, had to pay the rightful amount of money to us, that set us in the right path in these future years of making sure that we are made whole. So those were the two things. Most compelling testimony came from the community and worrying about the housing. We also know that there were certain development plans that were put on hold so that the community would be also made whole, or at least more whole. So there were those sorts of negotiations that were not taking care just between us, but with other folks as well. But those were the two areas, I think. The community, or three areas: the community getting more of it, of the benefit of it, and then knowing it was going to be there, and knowing that this was the larger issue about economic development.
Someone writes, and it's to the subject, Angela, she writes, are you pleased with yourself that you voted for the further gentrification of the West End? Was that a factor in the decision for you?
No, I'm actually quite opposed to gentrification. But the reality is it is happening in any number of our neighborhoods. And that's one of the reasons I'm pleased to serve on the property tax work group that's been put together by Vice Mayor Smitherman. Because what we're looking into in that group, and it's a widespread group, it meets monthly, has public meetings, is that through this gentrification, people who literally have legacy to their house and their home are being forced out, not because somebody's gentrifying their house, but because their property taxes are going up so significantly they can't afford them. And that's happening in Madisonville, it's happening in East Walnut Hills and Walnut Hills, it's happening in any number of our neighborhoods. So no, I actually am trying to work towards finding ways with other people to not necessarily impede the gentrification, but impede the either intended or unintended consequences of this gentrification in a number of our schools.
I mean, Eve,
neighborhoods.
Eve, I'm sure you heard all this before, right? Because you know that's how people in the community are going to feel about the school board members that voted for it, right? So it just kind of comes with the territory.
Oh, we're paying dearly for that vote, and we know that. And that's why it's very important to, and I appreciate that, and I understand that.
Oh, for sure. I mean, people are going to have some issues. Let me see here.
Absolutely.
See. More questions here. She wants to. Iris wants to know: are you aware of Miami Valley Career Tech, just north of Dayton, and what they offer around policing? ?
Yes, I am. That it starts a little bit before people are 18, but it has an extended program beyond 18.
Okay.
It's similar to Butler Tech. We send even our security guards, our security force out to Butler Tech to get certified. But the career path credentialing piece, which is where a public school system like ours needs to focus, it's difficult to do the police. It is easier, much easier, and actually relevant to do the firefighting and EMT.
I want to go back to something real quick, and then I've got another guest lined up, Eve, and I appreciate your time this morning. I think it's very important. And it goes back to the whole FC Cincinnati thing. And that is, so what did we get out of this? What did CPS get out of the deal? It was the deal that you guys, and you just said earlier, you said it was the best you can get. You feel like it was a win. Can you give me the bullet points real quick so I have a mental picture of this?
I hesitate to give you the right number of monies, but first of all and foremost, we got the appropriate amount of tax revenue in an appropriate amount of time space that we would get. Initially, the offer from FC, which made us be very angry, was that they would continue to pay the taxes that were already being paid and no more. So we were never going to get the revenue that would be available based upon the increase of the value of the property. So we got, in the time frame that we needed and the dollar amount that we needed, to receive the revenue that stadium and its place as being taxed, property tax, would get us. So first and foremost, we got that. Second, we got, as far as I'm concerned, a premier stadium instead of where Stargell was and the kind of stadium that it is now. We got that. And also, I think by making these arrangements with FC, even down to the property line, and also making adjustments regarding the parking, which is another sacrifice initially, we got, I think, the ability to preserve Taft High School, where it is and as it is and into the future. So those are the three things I think we got. We also, by holding hearings and engagement, I think we helped the community and city council increase their ability to get a better community agreement with the powers that be and with the community regarding the mixed housing use, because very frankly, where our stadium is now located, that was going to increase gentrification even more. because the price of those houses that were going to go up, where we now have Stargell Stadium, where our children actually can compete in a premier place, there were going to be housing units that would further gentrify and up the property values of where the West End is now. So I think we actually impeded some degree of gentrification, not accelerated it. We got the money that was due our kids, and we got a stadium. And I think we increased the opportunity for the neighborhood to create a neighborhood development agreement.
Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. And if you want to leave some last words, Eve, I'll give you the last word here. I do want to say this. So you're the longest tenured member of the school board, 12 years.
That's up right now. I'm the oldest, but Mrs. Bates has been on it longer.
She's been on,
but
okay.
Yeah, I'm the most experienced one running now.
Okay. And we know the current state of CPS, but you say there's some progress, and we know there's some bright spots.
Great progress.
You know, how do you want people
we can do better.
We can do better. So why aren't we already doing better? You know, why aren't we already doing better if we can do better?
We are doing better because, as I said, if you look at the academic statistics and other, let's say, people are moving in. We're not closing schools, we're opening them. We've increased our enrollment by 4,000 in the last few years. So we are doing better, both academically, extracurricularly, greater partnerships, expanding health services and nutritional services. So we are doing a great deal better because we've had 3 wonderful superintendents back to back to back. And this current superintendent is a visionary, and she's got a strategic plan from which to work.
How can we have 3? Okay, well, I mean,
earlier we had Mrs. Blackwell,
right,
and we had Mrs. Ronan, and then we had Mrs. Mitchell,
right.
And all those
did Mary Ronan ever have
done a great job.
Did Mary Ronan ever put together like a master plan? Because I think you said earlier it's the first time we had it in 13 years.
She did not. She did not. She was working from a master plan that came, I think, from the Blackwell administration or even before. This is our first strategic plan in 13 or so years.
Right.
But what we had decided to do over time was address particular problems as initiatives, whether it was the My Tomorrow or whether it was the elementary initiative focusing on our 15 lowest achieving schools, or whether it was other sorts of things, for example, community learning centers expanding or having mental health services by both public and private partners in every one of our buildings. So we had a number of initiatives, great initiatives, strategic initiatives, but this is our first overall plan of the 5 steps.
And just to clarify something, because there's some chatter inside the chop shop right now, people are really chopping up one of your statements when I asked you about the gentrification piece, and you ended by saying that you thought that actually CPS might have helped to impede the progress of gentrification. But from the outside looking in, the biggest motivator, right, is the FC Cincinnati. Is the FCC stadium down there. So if that wasn't there, people are looking at it like, well, the gentrification wouldn't be happening as fast as it is right now.
That's unfortunate, or fortunately or unfortunately, that's not true.
Because you're operating from a position that it was going to happen anyway.
Because the property that we used to build our stadium at their expense, the FC's expense, and that land swap was going to be a significant number, dozens, if you will, of housing units that were not going to be affordable. And that would have increased the property costs to the folks that live there even more greatly than does the stadium. And then offer no jobs, offer no economic development, and no protection for the existing homeowners and renters that we currently have. But people have to understand what was going to happen if that land was used for that instead of that stadium for our children.
As you said earlier, you felt as if you were between a rock and a hard place, right?
Oh,
you know,
definitely. It's a hard decision for all of us.
So if the board had decided not to agree with the land agreement, what would have happened?
I think we would have been in court regarding eminent domain. It would have fallen to the city council to make the final determination. I think we would have had dozens of housing units that were not affordable built on Ezard Charles in that one green space where there now is a new stadium. I think that the powers that be would have won a larger argument, and we would now not have the revenue that the stadium is going to generate as property tax, and we would not have Taft being in a secure place right now. I think the powers that be would have forced Taft out. And indeed, the community, there's still people in the community that think that somehow we're going to be forced to close Taft. Well, that'll happen over anybody's dead body. That is an important part of our portfolio and has a proud history. So those are the things I think would have happened if we had gone the other way.
And one last thing, Eve, what are your budget priorities? I saw Mike Morosky, he put it out there. We discussed it a little bit in this morning show, but what are your budget priorities?
My budget priorities, first of all, is to have an open budget process, which we do not have. And I applaud Mike for putting it online and getting it out there. My budget priorities, very frankly, are focused on growth and also the expansion, if you will, of instructional curricula and staffing that make sense and get results. So those two things. And the third is that we need to expand to all 65 of our schools a vibrant and productive community learning center. And we only have it in about 45 or so of our schools, and not all of them are as good as they need to be.
Right.
So I'll be focusing on those three things.
Yeah, because in my experience, you got. I love the concept. I love the community learning concept. But in my opinion, they're not open. They got a whole lot of issues. In some cases, you got security issues. You got principals that don't want to be open beyond school hours because of safety concerns. Right, which I know is a real issue. But where's the money to make sure we have security guards? In some cases, they're supposed to be running programming and they're not. So I love the concept, but is it really being put in place to the fullest?
Yeah, there are probably out of the 45 or so that we have, there are probably 20 or 25 of our schools that are primo community learning centers. The 6 best ones I can think of are actually run by the Community Learning Center Institute. And they are neighborhood schools like Sailor Park and Mount Washington and Mount Airy and Euler and a couple of the others as well. So they're the premier ones, the prime ones. We need to model the rest of them around their concept as to how they do it. And I think we can do that. That's why it's a budget. You mentioned why it's a budget issue. If we want to have mental health services beyond the school day, we've got to pay for that building to be open. And so it is a major budget interest of mine to make sure that board policy, which says there will be a successful community learning center in all of our buildings, including our high schools, that is a big budget priority for me. Growth, meaning acquiring more facilities and widening our program, that's a budget effort. And then also improving our instructional and staffing curricula and teaching is one of the top 3 as well.
Well, Eve, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and good luck. And hopefully we'll talk real soon.
And thank you so much. And if I get the last word, please vote on Tuesday for whomever you want to vote. I'm particularly going to vote for writing in Ozzie Davis and supporting Carolyn Jones, and also supporting as well our newest member, Pamela Bowers.
All right. Take it easy, Eve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, most definitely. That's Eve Bolton, everybody. Interesting. What do you think? What do you think? I'd like to know. Now, let that marinate a little bit, and then I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to catch up with John K. Coleman, who's a current magistrate. He's running for municipal court judge here in the city of Cincinnati. And we'll pick his brain and get a sense of why he's running and what he may do if he gets on the school board. All right? I'm sorry, what he may do if he becomes the municipal court judge. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is Bishop Bobby Hilton. I support Janea Trotter Bratton for District 1 Judge. We must hold candidates to the highest moral standards. Janea shows integrity and is a Democrat that works hard for all those in our community. Janea did not and would not sell out her values just to get a seat. Her opponent cut a deal with Republicans to become a magistrate and has continued to be Republican even under the Trump administration, something she fails to mention. But Janea's opponent never forgets to mention her ties to a soul food restaurant ran decades ago, as if fried chicken will fool us into thinking she will fight for a fair judicial system. It's the same Republican playbook, assuming blacks are dumb enough to ignore facts and be swayed by down-home talk. Let's tell Miss Soul Food there's not enough fish plates in the world to make up for a lack of integrity and experience. Don't be fooled. A vote for the Republican is a vote for Trump's racist agenda. A vote for Janea is a vote for justice.
Paid for by the Hamilton County Democratic Party.
Hello, this is Ron Dumas. Now is the time to vote for the only candidate that's never prosecuted hundreds of our people, who has never testified in a judge's trial, and sadly, that judge was found guilty of that very offense.
Our people died for your right to vote. Please do not let anyone or anything take away your freedom of choice. There is freedom and power in your vote. I still remember the image of Miss Jane Pittman. Please don't let anyone assume that they have your vote just because they hand you a paper or a ticket. We are smart people.
Now is the time to vote for Judge Elisa Murphy, who is fair, just, and the most experienced, who has been on the bench a total of 16 and a half years, who has fought on the front lines with Judge Leslie Isaiah Gaines, who has over 25 years of experience as a defense attorney, who is from Evanston, and her family own the Old Southern Restaurant in the West End.
I am honored to follow Judge Leslie Isaiah Gaines, Judge John Berlew, and Judge John Skip West, who all came from this balanced, nonpartisan district. Please vote for your homegrown judge, Judge Elisa Murphy.
Paid for by Murphy for Judge.
This is State Senator Cecil Thomas here, urging you to write in Ozzie Davis when you vote November 5th, and vote for Eve Bolton and Carolyn Jones. And also on your ballot, vote Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board. They've been working hard together on our school board to improve our schools. Our kids deserve their consistent, strong leadership. Remember to vote November 5th. Write in Ozzie Davis and vote for Eve Bolton, Carolyn Jones, and vote for Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board.
This is Pamela Bowers, and I approve this message. Paid for by Bowers for the Board.
This is Bishop Bobby Hilton. I support Janea Trotter Bratton for District 1
Retired
Judge.
Judge Fanon Rucker. I served District 1 for 12 years, retiring from the bench this September. And when it comes to replacing me on the court, to me, there's one clear choice: Janea Trotter Bratton. Janea was born and raised in Cincinnati, started her legal career in the municipal court, and has worked for years as a civil rights lawyer. She's a leader in our community, recognized by the NAACP and by the YWCA as a rising star. As a judge, I know Janea will make our justice system work for everyone, and she will do it with compassion and fairness. So whether you live in Avondale or Evanston, Walnut Hills, the West End, or Mount Auburn, the people of District 1 need Janea Trotter Bratton on the bench. She is the only Democrat in this race, and she has my full support. So on November 5th, vote Janea Trotter Bratton for judge.
Thank you, Judge Rucker. It is an honor to have your endorsement. I ask you to elect me, Janea Trotter Bratton, as the first Black woman to be elected to this judicial seat.
Paid for by the committee to elect Janea Trotter Bratton judge.
People are always talking about the stock market, always looking to invest in a good opportunity, something with the potential to grow. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock where you invest to make money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps students like me go to college, which ends up making the future better for everybody. I could be the first college graduate in my family, the first district attorney from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there will be a second and a third. This can really be the start of something. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
With the Bloomberg Urban Report, I'm Donna Wilson. The number of Black-owned banks have been declining at an alarming rate. According to the FDIC, there are just 22 Black banks in the country as of the first quarter. That's down from 48 in 2001. Many black-owned banks are facing strenuous conditions and need large-scale support to help them keep their doors open. So the House Financial Services Committee is examining how they can help black banks get some relief. In other news, Essence, the leading media, tech, and commerce company serving black women, is launching the Essence New Voices Entrepreneurs Summit. It takes place in Atlanta in December. The summit is designed to support entrepreneurs of color and help cultivate increased economic opportunities for black-owned firms. That's your Bloomberg Urban Report. I'm Donna Wilson.
All right. Hopefully not too long of a break for everybody. Welcome back. Nate Ivey in the air chair. So we talked with Eve Bolton. What do you think? Shout out to all the folks. Jordan, appreciate the questions. Everybody. Sister Iris, Angela, thank you. I will read your questions. Absolutely. I want to get it in. We'll have to talk about Eve a little bit later. For now, I want to welcome in Brother John K. Coleman. Hey, John, are you there?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, John. Thank you for your time this morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be able to address and introduce myself to your guests.
Oh, absolutely, man. Now, we on speaker? Because we are. It's better if we're not.
Okay. All right. Let me.
Hopefully he didn't cut us off here. Let me see. No, he's still here.
Brother Ivy.
Hey, how you doing?
Great.
We good? Okay, great. Well, John, listen, man, my first time meeting you is at the NAACP forum. We spoke very briefly. I did like a little, man on the street interview. I actually played that for the audience, sort of whet the appetite to have you come on. Tell people what position you're running for, and are you from Cincinnati? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, sir. I am running for Hamilton County Municipal Court Judge in District 2. And Municipal Court District 2 is a little different from Police District 2. It encompasses the neighborhoods of Elmwood, St. Bernard, Columbia Township, Madisonville, Kennedy Heights, Pleasant Ridge, Bond Hill, North Avondale, Clifton, Spring Grove Village, Winton Terrace, and a slice of the West Side. I am a native Cincinnatian. I was raised in Cincinnati. I was actually born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but I got to Cincinnati shortly thereafter, raised here, grew up in Bond, spent the overwhelming majority of my time in Bond Hill, lived there for 37 years. Since 2011, I've lived in Avondale. I'm a 1985 graduate of Withrow High School, went away to college, attended General Motors Institute for Engineering and Management in Flint, Michigan. Went back to school. I thought I was going to be a company guy. Got back to business school, and my roommate was a law student, and that sparked my interest in the law. Ended up coming back to Cincinnati for law school, graduated from UC in 1997. Shortly thereafter, I became a criminal defense attorney with the Public Defender's Office. Over the span of 10 years, I handled over 7,000 cases for them. Since 2011, I've been a magistrate in juvenile court. I'm currently employed in the Dependency Abuse and Neglect Division. So I do what's typically known as the 241 kids cases. Do you want me to continue to tell you more about I'm married. I have 3 kids. My oldest daughter is 30. My son just graduated from Tuskegee. He's 23. And I have a daughter who's 11 who attends North Avondale Montessori. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. I'm a Prince Hall Mason. I participated in the Upward Bound program. I'm homegrown. as they say. I'm very familiar with, Cincinnati. I'm a big fan. I want Cincinnati to be the best that it can be, and I'm hopeful to serve in the capacity of municipal court judge and be able to address some of the things that are going on in the recent past and the more distant past. I've seen the proliferation of mental health and substance abuse issues. I see the profound impact that it's having on our community, and I'm hopeful to be able to make a difference as a sitting judge.
Speaking with John K. Coleman, are you currently a magistrate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to make sure we got that in too. How long have you been a magistrate?
Since 2011.
Since 2011. Okay, I'm not sure if I missed that. What's that like, magistrate, man? What are some of the responsibilities, and what kind of cases you deal with?
Well, I deal with dependency, abuse, and neglect cases.
Right.
So these cases, I primarily deal with the parents. The state, their parenting has their parenting has been identified, come to the attention of the state as being substandard, such that the state has an interest in the parenting, and they take action. And many times the children are removed, and then there are a series of cases to determine exactly what the facts were and what the parents will need to do in order to regain custody of their children. And on one end of the spectrum, the children are monitored under orders of protective supervision. On the other end of the spectrum, the children are removed from the parents' care, and oftentimes parents start out with supervised visitation. And when I say what parents have to do, parents usually, the overwhelming majority of the cases are cases where parents have substance abuse or mental health issues or a combination of both. There are instances where parents just stub their toe, have a lapse in their better judgment, and those cases are more easily resolved. The other cases, just take more time. And then there comes a time when I have to make a determination by statute. There's a time limitation on the cases, and I have to make a decision as to whether or not the kids go back to the parents, go to a family member or a family friend, or if the children are ultimately, going to end up permanently in foster care, where the permanency plan becomes adoption. So I'm making very important decisions about what's in their best interest, and that governs all of the cases that I hear, and then ultimately, where they go and who they're going to be with. So I'm making very, very important decisions because they impact people for the rest of their lives.
We're speaking with John K. Coleman, Magistrate John K. Coleman. He's running for municipal court judge, District 2. So what's your why, John? Why are you running?
Well, I'm running for multiple reasons. I'm glad you asked that question. First and foremost, I want to continue my legacy of public service in a distinguished and dignified way. Service is very important to me, and there's a blessing attached to service. People have died, suffered, and sacrificed for me to have the opportunity to not only attend college, but to attend law school and to serve as an attorney, and I take that very seriously. Second, becoming a judge will allow me to utilize my skills, talents, gifts in a leadership role. I'm patient, have strong communication skills. I'm able to effectively deal with a wide range of personality types. I'm definitely a technician with regard to the law, but I think with people and relationships, that's where the magic happens a lot of times in some of these legal cases. Finally, in serving as a judge, I will achieve a significant long-term goal and reach the next level as a jurist.
So your reasons are
becoming a judge is very much aligned with what I do presently, and it's something that I'm good at, and it's something that I thoroughly enjoy. I really enjoy my job, getting it right and helping people. That's really why I got into this. I went to law school, to help people and also for personal development. I used to be a relatively reserved, timid, kind of introverted person. And law school forced me to be more out there and in your face and direct. And so I believe it's on my path, and I think it's directly tied to my purpose.
And what is your purpose?
My purpose is to serve. I have kind of challenged that theory. Every time I had an opportunity to put myself out there to do something to help others, and I didn't do it, there was blockage, there was stagnation. Every time that I made the decision to walk through the door, to rise to the occasion, I just have, ongoing and significant and magnificent blessings in my life and opportunities. So I'm firm in that I have to serve and give back. The blessings that I enjoy, just not my own to enjoy.
Well, John, your challenger is Tyrone Yates, right? Black Democrat. You are a Republican, running as a Republican. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I mean, from the outside looking in, my question is, why this seat? Why are you going? Do you think that Tyrone Yates is doing a bad job? Just kind of looking at some of your question, the way that you answer that question. I mean, if it was about your career advancement, I'm sure there are other seats that could be open. Do you think that Yates is doing a bad job for the community? Is that why you're running?
I can't say anything bad about my opponent. I am very respectful of Brother Yates. I remember watching him on cable as a council person, and he moved on to become a state rep, and he served now as a judge for approximately 13 years. And I believe that it's just time for a change. I'm a Republican, and I do want to address that.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. But I mean, from a perspective,
but I think that the district is user friendly. I think to African Americans, I think with regard to the communities, many of the communities are in the urban center, and I am intimately familiar with issues and dynamics, that happen right in the urban center. I think that the people deserve a choice, and I think it's time for change. I hold myself out as John Coleman, the right choice right now. One of the things that makes me the right choice is my relationship with the community and my belief that it's time for change with regard to the position that I'm seeking.
Okay, so let's talk about that change, because I know you can't say anything negative about your opponent, but can you say anything positive? Do you think that the current guy that's there, that Yates, is doing a good job for our community? And what are your differences? You say yes.
I'm respectful of the job that he does. I think that I can do a better job.
Okay, and why can you do a better job than Yates?
Well, I'm 51 years of age. Brother Yates is 65. I think that my viewpoints and my perspective are a bit more contemporary, and I have a firm commitment to serve the community. I have an 11-year-old, and my oldest daughter, she graduated from Hughes, matriculated through Spelman. She doesn't live in Cincinnati anymore, but I I have a 23-year-old and an 11-year-old. I have my hand on the pulse of the community. My wife is a first grade teacher at Winton Hills Academy. So I feel like, I'm just in the mix, and campaigning for the greater part of the past 4 to 5 months. I've been meeting with members of the community and active, and I'm just, I'm just totally convinced and I've been, enlightened as to, the struggle that so many people are going through, and I just feel, connected.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking to do something about that and do something with that.
So I don't know how this works. You tell me. So you chose to run against Yates in District 2. Could you have easily have chose to run against somebody else in another district? How does that work exactly? Why this? I mean, from a black perspective, we need more qualified black lawyers. We need more black law enforcement agents. We need more black people that are officers of the court, right, to represent our interests. Because I'm sure you agree. You're down there. I'm sure we both agree that the system is not fair to us, right? So what I don't get is we got two brothers running against each other. We already got a brother down there that seems to be doing. I haven't heard anything negative. That's why I wanted to press you on that to figure out what your why was and why not run against one of the white dudes down there in another municipal district.
And I don't look at it as so much as it's a hostile takeover and I'm trying to overcome Yates. I look at it more as it's the handing off of the baton. It's time for me to, take possession of the baton and run the next leg of the race. So,
okay. Here's another question.
I'm just, yes, sir.
No, I don't want to. You can finish your thought. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. That's it.
Here's a question from Iris. She's really concerned about you have an FOP endorsement?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Fraternal Order of Police. She wants to know, what does that mean? She says, after all the disruption to the collaborative agreement and its refresh, the only protections we have against biased policing, why would you be proud of that endorsement? Because the FOP has been resisting the process.
And the endorsement from the Fraternal Order of Police, I think, is indicative that they thought that I embody the principles that they are about and aspire to. I'm a man of responsibility, of dignity. I have a very hard work ethic. I do care about people. And so I'm proud of the endorsement, because that's one of the, it's a major endorsement as far as I'm concerned. And with the police, I acknowledge that there are significant police community relationships across this country, and there have been for a long time. But I don't think that you can overlook the significant contribution that the police make every day. Any little problem, the first person that the first thought that people have is call the police, and the police respond time after time.
Yeah, but John,
I said, they don't always get it right.
John, let me start right there. And what's the point with that? That's their job. They get paid by the taxpayers. That has nothing to do with police policies, collaborative agreements. I mean, even though we have to call the police in emergency situations, we still should get a qualified professional that shows up and deals with us with dignity and adheres to the policy. That's what the real question is. I mean, you don't have to qualify, the fact that we need the police. We all got that. We understand that. The issue is, do you support the mechanisms like the collaborative agreement and others that will help to police the police, to make sure that we're getting the kind of community engagement that we're paying for?
Absolutely. I think there should be checks and balances in every system. I think that there should be attention given to a lot of the training that officers get and the qualifications, the requirements to become an officer. I think that should definitely be looked at. The collaborative agreement. I was living in the community when the incident that triggered the event that prompted the development of the collaboration, and I can say I was under the impression that the collaboration was a great, tremendous thing, and I look up to, one of the attorneys, Ken Lawson, who worked on the collaborative agreement. So I have no problem. I think that the collaborative agreement is 18 years old. And I think it needs to be highlighted again, and I think there are a lot of people who have now come in age who weren't around when the collaborative came out, and that they should be made aware of exactly what the collaborative agreement stands for. So, in any way that we can improve, the quality of the policing that we receive in our community, I'm all for it.
Speaking with John K. Coleman, current magistrate and running for municipal court judge in District 2. Someone wants to know, has you ever offered to assist Yates in any way since he feels he has a fresher perspective? Why didn't he or doesn't he work with Yates on a committee or something? Me and Judge Yates sat on. We worked at the public defender's office together back in the early 2000s. I've appeared in front of Judge Yates on several cases as an attorney. I haven't had the opportunity to reach across the aisle and to work with Judge Yates, but I would have no problem working with Judge Yates or anyone else who was, proposing to make, policy changes, administrative changes that serve the interest of the public. It has not happened, but it has not happened because I'm opposed to it. That has not been the reason that it has not happened. So, John, are you just running as a Republican, or are you like a Trump Republican? Because let me be clear here. I think we need more black people in the Republican Party that can challenge from within and diversify. I have no problem with that. It depends on, how that person acts, right? So yes. when I come across a black candidate that's a Republican, first thing that jumps to my mind is Trump. Right, wrong, or whatever. That's the first thing. And I'm thinking, how can any black person silently be a part of a political party whose overall policy structure is not necessarily geared toward our communities? Not to say anything about the rhetoric and just whipping up racism and, using a birther strategy against Barack Obama and all of the fallout socially and culturally we have to deal with that. I'm talking about the policies are not good for our communities. How do you square that, John? Explain that to us.
Well, I think that what I became people talk about keeping it real. I became a Republican 20 years ago. And at that time, things were not nearly as polarized and extreme as they are now. And then I have not necessarily been pleased with what, I've seen. I think, the government structure was set up so to pull the best ideas and the best policies from both sides to serve the people. And I think we've gotten away from that. So I think there's definitely a missed opportunity. With regard to my relationship with Trump, I'm not in step with Trump. I think there are a lot of Republicans who can say that nowadays, that and not that, I mean, he is, I'll tell you what, it's hard to get behind some of the people, but as a Republican, I can always stand on the principles. And I think that's with most things. I think people let you down, people can disappoint you, but it's the principles that are noble and ideal, and that should be the guiding force or the guiding light.
So is that saying? I mean, because really, I mean, I've read about people leaving the party and protest because of Trump. I mean, people do it all the time, but you've chosen to stay. Why is that? Is it because overall you're more party than personality? Is that why?
Absolutely. And I at this point I didn't want to flip and say let me join the Republican Party so that I can become a judge. I decided to be who I've always been. I've been kind of on a unique path, and I've not been afraid to be a standout and be different. And I'm continuing to do so in my pursuit of this position. So I think that my thinking and my alignment and my loyalties are consistent and in alignment with that of the Black community.
Have you ever participated in any of the Black Lawyers Association volunteer opportunities over the last 4 years?
Over the last 4 years, no.
Okay.
And what
why not
happened is being people, and I have chosen to focus on family and my job, and not forever, but going through a period, I had to just. I'm the type of person that I can't. I'm not the type of person that necessarily people think that just because you're smart you can successfully manage 10 things. I'm more the type of person who is better able to focus and manage 3 things. So I had slowed down and kind of stepped back and just took care of the absolutely necessary things. And now I'm at a place where I'm able to kind of re-expand, get back into what I had been doing prior to. So I'm there's kind of a reemergence, a resurgence of as far as I'm re-energized and ready to go and anxious to connect and serve in all types of capacities, through all reaching different segments of the population through different means and manners.
So, John, what's your opinion and your position on restorative justice?
Oh, I'm a big fan and major proponent of restorative justice. I believe that there needs to be a lot more community outreach. I think the cornerstone of success in our community is going to be around education, and that being formal and informal education. I believe in all of the diversionary programs that are available. I'm a major fan of probation, fines, other penalties that make incarceration the absolute last option.
Well, John, is there anything you want to leave us with, man? I mean, we've gotten a sense of what your why is. I'll be honest with you. I was a little disappointed in that, just because it seemed to be more centered about you than the community. I'm gonna be straight with you. And I'm still trying to square. Okay, we got 2 Black men running for this. What's the difference? If Yates is in that spot and he's reflecting the community, not to say anybody's perfect, why should we vote for you?
Well, Mr. Ivy, I am attempting, and it's definitely not about me. I'm not egocentric. I wanted to open the doors and windows so that people could see in and get a better sense of who I am and where my values lie and how I came to be the person that I am. But
John, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm looking to serve God, and I'm a spiritual person as well. I believe in a healthy healthy body, healthy mind, healthy spirit. I believe in balance, but I was compelled to do this because God placed it on my mind and in my heart to run for judge at this time. And I'm a lifelong resident of Hamilton County Municipal Court District 2. And I was attracted to this place. I felt like, hey, this is where I'm from, and I'm going to try to put it down right here, right now. So that was my take, but I definitely don't want to leave you and your viewers with the impression that it's about me and that I think that I'm doing something.
Well, no, I mean I just
special, and it's about my uplift and aggrandizement.
Yeah, I mean, because everybody has a reason why they're doing what they're doing, especially running for public office. That's a difficult thing. Put your family through it. You're away from your family. I get it. But when I asked you your question, your answer was continue your legacy. Becoming a judge is a leadership role and achieve a long-term goal.
Look, I said continue on my legacy of public service.
A public service, right.
I've been a public servant since the very beginning. I did about a year and a half as a sole practitioner. I had my own practice, and then I had an opportunity with the public defender's office, and I took pride in that. And there's been there's a revolution at the public defender's office. They're saying, hey, we defend now. We really take cases to trial, and we're about really defending the community. And I was one of the pioneers of that mentality. I was one at the public defender's office. I started taking cases to jury, and not only taking them to jury, but prevailing. I actually won the overwhelming majority of my jury cases. But I did that, and being from Cincinnati, I got calls all the time. Can you help me with this? And what about this? And I got a quick question. And helping people's mothers, brothers, sisters, friends, and calls at all times of the day and night, out with my family, people stopping me, asking me questions. And I prided myself on helping people, and I did that. And then to become a magistrate and be able to continue to serve and really feel like I was, not feel like I was helping, but actually be able to help people making decisions about these kids. I'm like, I think that's, I feel very good about that. It's not about my legacy. I meant the emphasis was legacy on public service. And throughout all of this time, no one, when I was doing all the helping, it's interesting, no one asked whether or not I was a Democrat or a Republican. Nobody ever posed that question when I said, hey, this is what you should do, blah, 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 blah. They didn't say, hey, by the way, are you a Democrat? Never, not one time. And now it's an issue, and I'm not going to shy away from the issue, but I want to.
You're running for office in the age of Trump, man.
Legacy of public service.
John, you know what that is? You running for office. You're a black man running for office as a Republican in the age of Trump. It is what it is, bro. It comes with the territory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, to that, since you brought it up, Democrat, Republican, people want to know: did you vote for Trump? Do you support Trump? Because they want to make a distinction about what kind of Republican are you. Hello, John.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, did you hear my question?
Your question is, did I vote for Trump?
Yeah, do you support Trump? Right. Are you going to vote for him in 2022?
I will say this, Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, I can tell you that I do not support Trump, and I am loyal to my race, and I can say that I'm very proud when Obama was elected, and I did support Obama in both elections.
Are you planning on voting for him in 2020? So that's a yes. In 2016, you voted for Trump. Is that what I'm getting?
Mr. Ivy, and I understand what people are getting at. How does that relate to the function that I would serve as a judge? How can you connect the what the president is doing with what I was doing? My focus as a Republican has been on what's going on more locally. That's a whole other level. And with everything, I mean, Trump is about chaos, and he's cultivated a lot of confusion, and he said he was going to shake things up, and that's what he's done. I'm not in favor of that. I'm not in support of that. But I think that I don't think that's relevant to what I'm trying to accomplish here, what I'm seeking to do, what I will do, if elected. I do understand that the optics, are very bad, and as I said before, a lot of the people and personalities and positions that they've taken, on a more national level, I'm not really about that, and I'm not a career politician. This is my first serious foray into politics. My focus has been on being an attorney and being the best attorney I could be, the best magistrate I could be. Politics is, politics. I don't want to, say it's dirty business, but there's a lot going on a lot of different levels, a lot of dynamics at work, which makes it complex. It's not just that simple. If you support Trump, then I can't support you, and I can say that I don't, but that's not an indicator of who I am and what I'm about.
I mean, yes. I mean, no, but I think more yes in terms of politics. Listen, I get it. And for people who don't understand, I mean, that's a very loaded question in Hamilton County. You know what I'm saying? Because
absolutely,
it's been some
people
Hamilton
want
County.
to put a label on you. They want to put you on a
well,
box.
not just that.
They want to think that they know who you are and how you think and how you operate on the strength of that, and you can't. I mean, you can't do it.
Oh no, see, people may think that's a small question. That's a very loaded question. I mean, there's people who have lost the GOP support because they spoke out about Trump in Hamilton County.
Absolutely.
Right. So I understand what I'm asking you, but people want to know where you're coming from. For me, real is real. You voted for him, you voted for him. Maybe you want to add a caveat and tell people I feel this way or I regret it or I don't regret it. But for me, it's a reflection of how you might act if you're in that position. I mean, are you going to be party-centric? Like for me, if you can't even tell me who you voted for, then do you have the strength to do what's necessary if you're in that position as a municipal court judge? That's how I kind of look at it. That's just me personally.
Absolutely. In being an attorney, I mean, you can check my record. I was never one who laid down and took the deal because I was afraid to go forward. Being a defense attorney for all those years successfully, it's always about standing up and advocating for your client who's standing right there and is unpopular. And being in the courtroom, a lot of people don't understand when you're the defendant and the attorney is standing with you, the attorney is the only other person in the room who has your best interest at heart and who's speaking out on your behalf. And that takes guts. That's not for the faint of heart. And I stood in the gap for a long time. So I'm not ashamed. I've said that I'm a Republican. A lot of people would shy away from that, and would have a hard time, or it would be impossible. They couldn't do it, and so I've tried to give some context to that.
So that's a yes. Just to clarify, that's a yes in 2016, but you don't want people to hold it against you. That's what I'm hearing.
What do you mean yes in 2016?
I mean for voting for Trump. Yeah, I'm back on that one.
You're going to be relentless. You're not going to back off of that.
I mean,
right?
we've gotten this deep into the rabbit hole. I'm just trying to get to the bottom at this point. I mean, people are saying, is that a yes or a no? Just put it out there. And then we can just move on. I mean, but again, you can answer the questions however you want to answer them. It's totally up to you.
Let me pose a hypothetical to you.
Oh boy.
If I answer if I were to answer the question honestly, I want this to be something that helps me, not hurts me with regard to people voting for me. So, if I would answer the question, would that change your vote or your position with regard to supporting?
Personally, that's not even, I'm not going to talk about who I'm going to support, but in terms of the audience,
really?
Well, I mean, unless I think there's if I think that, generally I try to stay neutral unless I think that there's a menace or I see something, and then I'll talk about it. Other than that, I try to not poison people by my personal opinion and let them make their decision based upon what they hear. So I'm not going to get off. Well, I don't know what I'm going to say, actually, when I process this. I have to think about it. But at this point, I think people have already assumed that you have, because you've been kind of, going back and forth with it, man. And again, it's not the biggest issue in the world. It's a question that people are putting out there, and
that's unfortunate. I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna divulge that. I think you just have to base your decision on what you know about me, with the exception of that answer to that one particular question, did I vote for Trump? So,
all right.
I'm going to abstain from answering that question respectfully and humbly.
Okay. Well, Iris writes, what made you a good public defender, and did you take the Gideon's Promise courses?
I did not take the Gideon's Promise course, but I was one of the reasons I'm a great public defender is because I can relate to the offenses that I'm representing. I was in municipal court. I'm seeking a position in municipal court, and I had been in municipal court. The offenses that are in municipal court are all misdemeanors, and so it's OVI, disorderly conduct, assault, receiving stolen property, obstruction, offenses like that. And my life, I had lived my life in such a way that I could relate to those offenses. I had made mistakes in my past, and I was in the community and in the world, and that was one of the things that connected me to people. I'm a young man, and like I said, my gift is people and relationships. There's no shame in my game. People open up to me, they feel connected to me, and that empowered me. As far as going forward, I feel like I can represent their interests because while I, can go into a boardroom or a courtroom and express myself and communicate and connect, I'm also in the community. I was at all the bars. I was at, Skippers and Jellos, and went to the bunk and hung out in the community and pool parties at Madisonville Rec Center, house parties in Barn Hill, hanging out on the square, jazz festival all night. I had the full range of experiences. So when people say that they did something or had a lapse in their better judgment, I can relate. As a matter of fact, I'm proud to be in juvenile court. I was in juvenile court as a defendant twice. Before I was 18, I committed a F3 robbery, and it was a strong arm robbery case. And fortunately, because I was a good student, I didn't get locked up, but I had a suspended commitment to a maximum security juvenile detention center. And then before I turned 18, went away to college. I graduated from high school at 16, turned 17. My first semester in college, get there, back in the 80s, the drinks were flowing on college campuses, and I got a DUI. And I had to come back, transfer the DUI back to Hamilton County, and that was before I was 18. And so I was back in juvenile court. And, I learned from those experiences. I wanted to, and I felt like I could redeem myself through hard work and really accomplish something. And I wanted to be somebody. And so I've come a long way. So what made me a great public defender, I think what makes me a great magistrate is, like I said, my connection to people because I care. And, my mother used to worry about me. She said, John, I think, I worry about you because, in so many ways, you're too nice, So I told you about going to law school to try to be more in your face, more direct, more, more challenging. And so when you talk about standing up, to like you said, to run for a political office means standing up, and opening up. And so, I'm here, and I'm going to continue to do the best, that I can on every front. So I'm looking forward to the future. I feel victorious even prior, to the election. I'm winning in so many ways, and I feel so positive about this experience. And it's all about me getting in my world, and that it's all about me. That came out wrong, but I'm always concerned. I'm sure as many other people are about getting to that next level. What does it take to get to that next level? And I'm trying to do it with dignity and with respect, and I'm giving it and hope to receive it, and love. Love is the most powerful force on the face of this earth, and I'm going to let my objective is to let love rule. I think love is the only thing that's going to turn around all this craziness, all this madness,
Well, love?
everything that.
We need some people. We need some woke folks with who ain't gonna punk out and are willing to maybe give up lofty positions to enact some real change. That's what we need. That's what we need.
Absolutely. I'm the guy for the job. Let me just give you an example. People say, how can you take people's kids and never give them back? I do it with love. It's a function to be there. There's a function to be served. And like I said, it's not easy. So I'm going to stand up, and I'm going to raise my voice. I believe in Black power. I believe in all power to the people.
I hear you say that. Again, people race whoever they want to, but if you believe in Black power, wouldn't it have been more strategic to go after a seat that's maybe held by a non-Black judge rather than Yates? It's just something to think about. I don't know how that all works, but it's just something to think about. And listen, somebody wants to know, can you just run down the neighborhoods that your district, that are in your district?
Yes, sir. It's Columbia Township, Elmwood, St. Bernard, Madisonville, Kennedy Heights, Pleasant Ridge, Bond Hill, North Avondale, Spring Grove Village, Winton Terrace, Clifton, North Side, and a slice of the West Side.
Well, John K. Coleman, thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate it, and good luck.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, most def. That's John K. Coleman, Magistrate John Coleman, everybody. And I appreciate this time. We were on for quite a while. I thought it was very interesting. Thought it was a very interesting interview. But You will have to decide for yourself. I will say that the choppers are hilarious. It took everything I had, all the strength I had all day long to not laugh at some of the stuff that y'all was putting, but I'm in serious mode now. Y'all here dropping these, I mean, ABs just to everybody, man. Just ABs to everybody. ABs to everybody. People were saying, well, you know, I want to hook up a 2-way, 3-way. We can do that. Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely. Now, just to be fair, I'm not above an ambush. I'm going to tell you that right now. Depends on the circumstances or who it is. I will ambush you in a second. I ain't got no problem with it. But in terms of trying to be fair, you know, typically I like to let people know what they're walking into and tell them up front. Like, here's all the various things that could happen on the show today. You know, just so they know. And again, that ain't something, don't hold me to it, because I will make the decision to break that rule when I think it's necessary. I'm not not above that. It depends on the circumstances and who it is. Typically, it's somebody that deserve it. You will get ambushed, but typically 99% of the time, I want to tell people like, here, I'm going to take some questions from the audience. You might get a phone call. We might hook you up with somebody, just to be fair. That's just typically my story. I do that for everybody, just to be fair. So you know what you're walking into. Because then, whatever happens, once you walk into it, you ain't got no problems. Let's go to the phone. We got our very own Donnie B on the line. What's up, Donnie B?
Yo, excuse my language, but what the fuck was that? Like, what? That was crazy. Make it stop. Thank God you finally hung up on that brother. I can't even call him a brother. What is that? So I got some key points as a black lawyer that I just want to make about everything that this ridiculous dude has said. To be clear, normally, that's a lie. Normally, I tell you how I feel. I don't hold back, and I can't. What? So first of all, this dude said he wants to be a judge because of service. And then you asked him what service he's done, and he said, I went to work as a magistrate, and I focus on my job. My brother, I am a single mother. My son's father does not even live in the state. I do this shit all myself. I got my own law firm. I was president of BLAC for 4 years. I was on the MAG. I'm on the board of trustees right now for the African American Chamber. I'm on the board of trustees right now for River City, making sure that the inmates that are in there get GEDs and all kinds of stuff. I was on the board of trustees for the Cincinnati Bar Association. I tutor at Roll Hill Academy and started a whole program. When I was BLAC president, I did free legal clinics for the people every quarter. I'm presenting at a free legal clinic next month. I got a community forum on Know Your Rights and what to do for teenagers in high school when they get stopped by the police. That's service, my brother. Did you just say you went to work? Okay. Meanwhile, have y'all seen Tyrone Gates' biography? That's service. He has done a lot for this community. So I'm looking at John Coleman like this shit. Nate, I love you. You asked all the right questions. This was not about anything other than John Coleman and his career aspirations. The fact that a black man in 2019 refuses to answer whether or not he voted for Trump, that's all y'all need. If anybody still goes to polls and votes for this dude, it's a sign of self-hate. I question whether or not you still have your mental faculty. I can't believe it. The FOP endorsement question. Did we ever get what was that response? Did we ever get an answer? Police are shooting us, beating the hell out of us, tasing our 11-year-old children at Kroger, and this dude is on the FOP endorsement, huh?
You said we all call the police, basically. You said we all call the police. Whenever there's an issue, we call the police. What the hell?
Right. And then but they don't show up. Can we talk about it? Well, yeah, my brother, we do call the police, and they don't show up. Call 911 in a black neighborhood right now and say anything is happening and see how long it takes for you to get there, unless you're white. I'm wow. He had no knowledge about the collaborative agreement, no knowledge about everything that's going on with Dan Hill and the whole collaborative refresh. I have seen that dude at nothing. Not an NAACP meeting, not an Urban League situation, at nothing. Where is your service? And then you're oh, there's nothing wrong with Gates. I just feel like it's time for a change. And the age gap between you and Gates is 8 years? Stop. I was get out of here. It's time for a change because what? If Yates is doing a good job for the African American community and he's a black lawyer making sure that everything's fair, why do we need to change, my brother? A change from that to what? To a black dude that voted for Trump and doesn't want to say that he did? Okay. I'm like, dude, there are not enough hours in a day for me to go off on that dude. And I know him personally. I'm just like, where's the service? You've done nothing. Member of the Black Lawyer Association, I got to check the roster. I don't think that dude's a member. If he is, he's never done anything that we've done, y'all. I'm just telling you. He ain't for us. He doesn't do service. I'm tired of these black lawyers coming out the fucking woodworks. It's like, oh, I want to be a judge. I want to run for this and that. But I'm looking like, before all of that, who were you and where were you in the community putting in that work? Screw this dude. I'm livid. I want to do my whole podcast at 12:30 on his brother, but I got other shit to talk about. But literally, I could be on him all day. You got to hang up on me, Nate. I'm blown. I can't.
I appreciate the call. We'll catch up at 12:30. Is it Just Me Podcast with Donnie B? Yep. That's Donnie B. Wow. Damn. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I would say that some of those answers left a whole lot to be desired, including the Trump answer. I mean, what I would say is you own it. You voted for him, you voted for him. It is what it is. Explain it. I did it because I felt this way, I felt this way, I felt that way. You know, real simple. I'm not going to answer. To me, that's just the wrong answer. Because we know the answer now, and now it seems like you even know that it was the wrong thing to do, so you don't want to admit it. That's worse than just saying, yeah, I voted for him because of this and this, or he throws in some, I couldn't vote for Hillary, and da-da-da-da. You know, throw some of that in there. But it is what it is. Let's go back to the phone. We got Sister Iris on the line. How you doing, Sister Iris?
You know I'm frustrated as hell. So, you know, and I know John too. And this is extremely frustrating for me because if you've not paid attention to what's happened with the FOP and the only provisions that are protecting African Americans that are being eroded every day, John, every single day, this shit just went down this summer. When you saw Dan Hill on the news saying Irish Rowley cannot exercise her constitutional rights, she cannot stand up for what she believes in. And in addition said he would not sit back down at the table to implement the recommendations that we got from our expert team that the city spent our tax dollars on, $350,000 on the assessment, would not sit at the table and has not sat at the table. So here's what I'm going to offer to John, because this is bigger than, you know, your run. Obviously, you don't care. And service is what Donnie says. It's outside of getting paid for your job. If that's the case, then I should be rich as hell. I should be rolling in dough if it's about service, because that's all I do. But here, John, I'm going to offer this to you so that the next time somebody asks you about the agreement, that you actually know what it is. You actually know what the recommendations from the refresh are. All the shit is online. You can get it. All you got to do is Google it. But give me a call. Ask me before you get on the radio, before you get on a place where people are clearly aware about what's happening in their town, and go all the way back to Ken Lawson. Ken is in Hawaii. Dear brother, Ken reaches out to me. Where are you all? What are you all doing? And he's been gone for a while. So you can't use Ken as a crutch. So when people come in here and they start using names of people that may have been famous or done some things, but they're not recent and they're not relevant right now, don't be confused and don't let that sway your vote. I live in District 2, so I take this vote seriously, because I'm trying to stop the abundance of black folks being ushered into court by bad policing. That's what the collaborative is about. It's not about just getting out of their cars. It's about stopping mass incarceration before you go to court, before you are accused, to make sure that they are held accountable. It's transparency. It is monitoring, John. This is what the connection is all about for me. This is what we've been working on for the past 18 years, John. Please don't discount this work and don't discount it because you're over there with that endorsement. You should have asked them when you went in. Instead of asking Nathan a question, you should have asked the FOP, where's your stance on the collaborative and its refresh? Are you going to sit down at the table? Because this is about all African Americans and or black people who are perceived as such. That's the class inside of that federal lawsuit, John. That is our protection. And if you don't know that, dear brother, you don't deserve my vote. Thanks for letting me rant, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. A lot of passion. I will say it again. I've said it before. The people from Cincinnati that's in this room that I know are super intelligent people who know what's going on. She's right about that. You can't throw out some name and think, oh, Lisa said Lawson, and people can't, they know the timeline. They know what's going on. So, again, I don't really think I need to add any more commentary to it. I'm trying to think back through the conversation. If I was working with John, I would have coached him to do, number one, the number one question, the easiest question is the Trump question. That's the easiest question because you know what's coming. You know, any person that's interacting with any community in the age of Trump is going to be asked that. In the Asian community, somewhere the Asian Nathan Ivey, whoever he is asking that question from the perspective of his community as it relates to Trump. It is what it is. When you have a polarizing personality, it's going to trickle down to local elections, and I think that it should. And I'm not going to talk too much about why I think that's a fair question because I don't want to reveal anything more about the question. I'll just leave it like that. But, man, tough. And again, where is my Oscar? Where's my Emmy? I need an Emmy for staying, I won't say staying in character, but, keeping my professionalism because the comments, boy, this morning, this is really the chop shop this morning. Now, having said all of that, I like to be fair. You have to make the decision for yourself if you live in a municipal district too. Some do, some do not. I think if you live in Cincinnati, even if it's out of your district, it's still relevant. And it's still nice to hear from and get some interaction about these people that's running for public office. I think it's still important. But let me go back to the phones here. Welcome to the show. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Harvey. This is your West Side Connection, plus your free video editor. No, Mr. Harvey, I just want to let you know, I just finished your Gilligan of the Week video. I added a new twist to it, and I posted it on your page.
All right, let me look at it right now.
Yeah, so check it out. And I'm telling you, Nate, I'm learning this video stuff, brother. And as soon as I upgrade some things, 2020 is going to be a fun year. And I'm riding with you, Mr. Ivy. I'm riding with you and Said Digital Media.
Absolutely. I'm looking for it right now. You said you linked me 36 minutes ago? 36 minutes ago?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me press it.
Yeah, so
did you add John Coleman to it? Who is that? Oh, that's hilarious, man. You even got the audio? That's great.
I'm telling you, Mr. Ivy,
I like it, man. Thank you.
All this stuff is kicking in for me during retirement, but that's a beautiful thing. But like I said, I missed most of the show. I'll catch it on the replay, but I caught the tail end of the man that's, I guess he's running for judge
Coleman.
or something.
Yeah, he's running for municipal court judge here in Cincinnati area.
Yeah, so I heard the part when you asked him about being a Republican, and this is my opinion, Nate, just my opinion. Considering the fact that the state of Ohio has a governor and that the state house is full of Republicans and all these judges that the Trump administration is appointing, it is the Republican Party and all these state legislators, they're thirsty for black conservative judges. So some of these judges, because this judge that you had, he said he was 51 years old. So like Sister Ira said, he's been around. And some of the things he was saying, he was not being completely honest. But a lot of black people, no matter what profession, it's an opportunity to be a rhino, which means a Republican in name only. So when he refused to say he voted for Trump and he's claiming to be a Republican, that tells me, Nate, he's probably just a rhino. But, anyway, people will decide. The people will decide. So that's all I got, Mr. Ivy. All y'all choppers be safe in them streets. And drop Squad 52, dropping science to anyone who wants to catch it. Peace.
Appreciate the calls. I deserve an Emmy. Let me get back to what's important this morning. That's what's important. I mean, the comments, oh, man. First, we had great questions with Eve. Great questions from the choppers. I appreciate it. Again, I will read it. I will try to get it in. And I think that's a good mesh. I mean, for me, I always come prepared, but I know there's people out there with expertise and insight that I don't have. That's why I open it up. So I'll try to mix it up. Or in some cases, I'm like, the chopper's handling it. I go straight to your questions. I'll read your questions. Your questions are better than mine. I'll read yours. So I appreciate that. Again, like and share it so people can hear the conversation. I'll break it down so that my conversations with Eve Bolton and also John K. Coleman are their own podcast. And you can share them without the entirety of the entire show. It'll also be bookmarked, so you can go exactly to certain pinpoints, bookmarks inside the audio file, and you can check it out for yourself. Thought it was interesting. Thought it was real interesting. Damn, we got some big decisions to make. Somebody said, I'm afraid for the kids. Y'all are funny. I got to take another break. Listen, we might as well roll to 11. I'm already in a spot. Donnie B's coming up at 12:30. Let's roll to 11. If you want to roll, because I think there's a bit more for us to talk about. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Live, local, and vocal. It's the Nathan Ivey Show. Powered by Sin Digital Media, a new urban voice in the city of Cincinnati.
Here urging you to write in Ozzie Davis when you vote November 5th and vote for Eve Bolton and Carolyn Jones. And also on your ballot, vote Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board. They've been working hard together on our school board to improve our schools. Our kids deserve their consistent, strong leadership. Remember to vote November 5th. Write in Ozzie Davis and vote for Eve Bolton, Carolyn Jones, and vote for Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board.
This is Pamela Bowers, and I approve this message. Paid for by Bowers for the Board.
This is retired Judge Fanon Rucker. I served District 1 for 12 years, retiring from the bench this September. And when it comes to replacing me on the court, to me, there's one clear choice: Janaea Trotter Bratton. Janaea was born and raised in Cincinnati, started her legal career in the municipal court, and has worked for years as a civil rights lawyer. She's a leader in our community, recognized by the NAACP and by the YWCA as a rising star. As a judge, I know Janaea will make our justice system work for everyone, and she will do it with compassion and fairness. So whether you live in Avondale or Evanston, Walnut Hills, the West End, or Mount Auburn, the people of District 1 need Janaea Trotter Bratton on the bench. She is the only Democrat in this race, and she has my full support. So on November 5th, vote Janaea Trotter Bratton for judge.
Thank you, Judge Rucker. It is an honor to have your endorsement. I ask you to elect me, Janaea Trotter Bratton, as the first Black woman to be elected to this judicial seat.
Paid for by the committee to elect Janaea Trotter Bratton judge.
This is Ron Dumas. Now is the time to vote for the only candidate that's never prosecuted hundreds of our people, who has never testified in a judge's trial, and sadly, that judge was found guilty of that very offense.
Our people died for your right to vote. Please do not let anyone or anything take away your freedom of choice. There is freedom and power in your vote. I still remember the image of Miss Jane Pittman. Please don't let anyone assume that they have your vote just because they hand you a paper or a ticket. We are smart people.
Now is the time to vote for Judge Elisa Murphy, who is fair, just, and the most experienced, who has been on the bench a total of 16 and a half years, who has fought on the front lines with Judge Leslie Isaiah Gaines, who has over 25 years of experience as a defense attorney, who is from Evanston, and her family own the Old Southern Restaurant in the West End.
I am honored to follow Judge Leslie Isaiah Gaines, Judge John Berlew, and Judge John Skip West, who all came from this balanced, nonpartisan district. Please vote for your homegrown judge, Judge Elisa Murphy.
Paid for by Murphy for Judge.
This is State Senator Cecil Thomas here, urging you to write in Ozzie Davis when you vote November 5th and vote for Eve Bolton and Carolyn Jones. And also on your ballot, vote Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board. They've been working hard together on our school board to improve our schools. Our kids deserve their consistent, strong leadership. Remember to vote November 5th. Write in Ozzie Davis and vote for Eve Bolton, Carolyn Jones, and vote for Pam Bowers for Cincinnati School Board.
This is Pamela Bowers, and I approve this message. Paid for by Bowers for the Board.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thank you for sticking with me through that break. Appreciate it. It's politic time. You're going to get that in all local media. It's a very necessary part of what we do here. All right, good morning. So let's rock until 11 a.m., shall we? Because I'm already at the spot, and we got maybe like a 5 minute late start. We've been having some heavy, intensive conversations with other people, and I want to give you a chance to call in and share your thoughts, and I also want to switch up the conversation a little bit. It's a Friday. I mean, I like doing this. I like being with you every single day. You know, somebody was like, Nate, how you do it? Things are easy. When you're doing something you like to do, it's easy. Or it becomes easier, should I say. Because anything worth doing right means hard work. What are your residual thoughts about Eve Bolton? My thing with Eve Bolton is two things. You've been down here for a long time, and I kind of joke with her, but I'm sure she gets it all the time. You know, on some levels, it goes back to these are individual school board members by themselves. I think that having somebody good in a position that's a part of a body is always better, right? But they're gonna have to build consistency down there to get anything done to move as a group. And people have to decide for themselves whether they think Eve Bolton is necessary to move us forward. I mean, there's something to be said for experience. You know, what about that new job feel? You ever had a brand? I'm sure, but you know the feeling you have when you have a new job? You're excited, especially if you're making more money, especially if it's in aligned with your career goals. You're excited. You can't wait to get to your new place of employment. But you don't know anything. It takes you a while. And depending on the complexities of your job, I mean, is it just you? Are you managing a staff? How many people are on the staff? All that kind of stuff. You know, it can become more and more, or it could be more complex. I get it, but it takes a while. The point I'm trying to get to really learn how to navigate, to learn who to call when certain things happen. If you're on the school board, you have that experience. You have that experience. Eve Bolton has that experience. However, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily the person to lead it moving forward. She don't mean that. What do you think about her response on the stadium deal? Again, that's away from the policies and procedures that is relates to the various schools, but I think something that people have question marks about. And, you know, when I hear these school board members, they've got information that we don't. And I was at the forum, the NAACP forum, Parents House Masons, and it came up. It was Carolyn Jones, who, by the way, I've contacted. We talked about her coming on today, perhaps on Monday, and she's a school board president, black female, and can't wait to speak with her. And they seem to believe that it was going to happen anyway. Really? She said eminent domain. She said the city might use eminent domain. Really? City council was going to do that? That would have put blood on their hands. That would have put blood on their hands. Really? I don't know. I mean, she would know. So Eve seems to believe, and I have no reason not to believe her, that no matter what the school board did and how they voted on that land deal, that the FC Cincinnati was going to get what they want. Now, let's stop for a second. Because I think intrinsically, we all know that the powers that be get that. They do what they want, they get what they want. We kind of know that, right? But is that what the case is? Whatever happened to making a good old-fashioned stand? But they seem to believe, like, hey, listen, this is going to happen anyway. We can either roll with it and try to push for the very best that we can get for CPS and overall students, whether that's fiduciary or whatever, or we can take a stance and they'll just might roll over us and we'll end up right here anyway with no leverage and we'll get less. That's the way they paint it. People have to decide for themselves. All right, let's go to the phones here. We got John on line. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Mr. Nathan. I mean, the good people of Cincinnati as well as the good people around the world. And yes, those choppers. Interesting show as I was working on a computer and listening to your guest that you had on and the host of conversations. That one guest, I wasn't going to call in. I enjoyed listening and just came back from Florida with my travels and might be making a migration down there within the next 2 months permanently. But I'll still listen to Nathan Ivy, and every chance I get, I will call in. But the conversation you had was with that last gentleman. Every
John
time
K.
you
Coleman.
pressed him, every time you pressed him to asking would he vote for Donald Trump, either his signal on that phone was bad or he stumbled and bumbled and was hesitant in giving you a straight answer. How many times can you keep asking that guy and he would not answer the question? Let's talk about politics. I really don't care about politics. My focus is reparation, and I wish you could have threw that in there too. I don't know if you had a chance when I tuned in to ask some questions on reparation, but the lady that called in after him, she's correct. I can hear her voice.
Donnie B. That was Diana Bailey, Donnie B.
Yeah, she was very passionate and concerned about. She's sick and tired of being sick and tired. Honey, where have you been all this time? I've been sick and tired for 50 years of these politicians, black or white, but let's just stick with black, coming into our community begging for our votes like prostitutes. They get your vote and you don't hear from them for the next 4 years. So, this is the problem that is in front of us as black people. You vote for these candidates and you don't put demands, I'll say it again, you don't put demands on what you want before you cast that vote. And even if you put demands or hold them their feet to the fire, record everything you said. You notice how when the media get these candidates, they record their conversations, and once they get in there, they throw it right back in their face. And this is the issue with the black community. We do not hold these people accountable. I could give a damn about Donald Trump. I could give a damn about the Democrats. They're all under the same cloak and dagger. They promise you things knowing that they're not going to keep. But my focus is, and I'm being consistent, reparation. Wait till Elizabeth Warren or whoever comes through here. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be right in front of them and stick my hands up in the air. What are you going to do about reparation? Are you going to move forward, or are you going to just give me lip service? That's what I'm concerned with. All of this other foolishness with the Democrats casting their kicking Trump out of the White House, all of that is the smoke and mirrors show. It's not going to go anyplace, people. Yes, the Democrats may hold him accountable. It's not going to get past the Senate, and even if it gets past the Senate, it's not going to get past the Supreme Court. This is going to drag out till next year, and it's no guarantee the Democrats are going to keep control of the House. Can they keep the House, and can they get the Senate if they do get the if they get a Democrat candidate in there? So it's plenty of time. Yes, I understand that. We don't know who the candidates on the Democrat side will be. It's a lot of time, but we as black people should concern ourselves with our issues and hold these candidates accountable, be it local, state, nationally.
We already know this, John. That's why we vote. That's why we didn't vote in Zorro, man. We didn't write in Zorro on our ballot in 2016. You're never going to live that down. Never.
Well, yes, I probably will. And as I indicated, if Zorro doesn't like what he sees between now and November, he may resurface again. But it's going to come down to one thing, and that is we, the people, holding these rats on both sides of the aisle, holding them accountable. Their lives are problems.
We know. We know.
Well, some of us don't know. Some of us don't know, and you got to remind them because they're on the plantation and they're drinking too much Kool-Aid, just like these candidates that come before your microphone, telling them what I'm going to do, Nathan Ivey, and he stumbles and he couldn't even answer the basic question that you kept asking him 3 times. Are you going to vote for Donald Trump? Are you going to vote for Donald? Either he kept cutting out. I don't know if his signal was bad or if he just was hesitant to give you a straight answer, and he didn't give you a straight answer. But these politicians, it's like a circus. Who could be the clown? Who can give you the same bull crap that they've been recycling and giving you? But when they get in there, They get in there and see how tough it really is to get something passed. That if they don't play the game the way the big guy wants them to play, which is they get that magical call in the middle of the night, you better vote this way, so-and-so, or else you're not getting nothing.
I don't know if it's a call in the middle of the night. It's probably, it could be a conference call in the middle of the day. Could be a face-to-face conversation.
Day or night.
All that being said, John, how does the number one thing, and again, I've said this to you before back in 2016, then vote.
Yes.
Then make an informed decision. You don't have to vote in every election. Vote in the elections that you want to. Vote. You're in New Jersey, right? Soon to be in Florida, perhaps. Vote in.
Soon to be in Florida.
Soon to be in Florida. So in Florida, vote in the local elections once you get acclimated. If you feel inclined to do so. Don't even worry about the national.
New Jersey, I'm exiting out. So between now and next year, I probably will not be here. By February, I'll be acclimated into Florida, and I've already looked around Florida, and I've talked to my aunt, uncles, and relatives, and see if we think we got a mess up here in the north, Florida is 100 times as worse. It's bad down there too. So it's not going to change.
John, I got to make a move.
Unless the will of the people step forward and kick these rats out. Have a nice day.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Kinda. Man, it's the world we live in. Let me move on. 513-873-7134. Again, coming up today in about 90 minutes approximately, Is It Just Me with Donnie B. Elisa's Family Fried Fish. That is hilarious. I can't even go through all the comments. But, John, that man. Listen, I appreciate his support. Sister V writes, I take off every election and drive to polling locations where the help is needed. Let me get my flyers that say vote no on Coleman. Oh boy, it's not gonna be good. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. It was Tony writes, you were a little too gracious to the dude, Nate. Really? Let's see. Brian writes, Nate, play that Roland Martin. I dance for Massa. That song? See. That song was originally created by Tariq Nasheed for Roland Martin. And you want to do this for John Coleman, huh? Well, those decisions are above me. We have to go to the choppers to get those decisions made. Oh, that is hilarious. I dance. That's funny. It's been a minute since I heard that. If you haven't heard, you're like, what the hell is he talking about? Just wait for it. Hey, Denise Milk and Cookies, good to see you. Tony, everybody, thanks for being here. Cam. And the ladies at the Chop Shop, hold it down. Danietta. Tanika writes, the more he talks, the more I'm confused about who this guy is. Spare us, Nate. Chip writes, he needs to go back and rethink his path. He needs more time and needs to get some good advice. That will help him. Some good advice that will help him do this in a few years. Plumazic writes, is he from Bedrock with all the yabba yabba doos? TNT writes, the realest is she said the whole interview. He should have started off like this. Denise writes, Nate, cut it. Just cut the call, please. Thank you, Jordan, for your contribution. I appreciate it. She writes, love the Chop Shop. I can't listen till later, but y'all are going in. Yeah, y'all was going in. I don't know. I mean, I saw John Coleman at the forum, as I told you, the Prince Hall Masons forum, NAACP, and the brother seemed to be, I talked with him, he seemed to be sharp. I'm not saying he didn't come across as sharp this morning. I'm just saying he seemed to be sharp. And I don't know. To me, these questions, if I'm John Coleman, none of the questions I asked today should be shockers. I mean, you shouldn't be shocked by any of this. Bunky writes, Nate, hang up on him before he incriminates himself. Pat writes, this guy, I'm afraid for our children. Kim writes, Skippers, Jellos, what the hell? This dude is reminiscing the 80s. Denise writes, Cam, he gonna need some loud and a shot of Don Julio after this one. Y'all are funny. Dog Slick writes, he sounds like he had his own people, black folks. Pat writes, we are intelligent people, John. We have already figured it out. I think that was in response to John, like, hey, will it really make a difference if I answer this question? That's why I was like, no. At this point, no, it wouldn't make a difference at all because people have already made their decision. If you are a black Republican, own it. Just own it. That's your safest pathway through. The yabba dabba do and us and buzz. And let me ask you a question. None of that's gonna play. It makes you look worse. Just own it. Yeah, I'm a black Republican because I couldn't rock with Hillary. Come up with some BS or whatever it is, whatever your reason is. That's how I would handle it. If I was a black Republican, yeah, I'm a black Republican. I wouldn't be talking about because it's the party of Lincoln. No, I'm not gonna say that shit. You can believe that. I'm not gonna say it's because it's the party that freed the slaves, because that ain't flying. But if I was a black Republican, I'm sure I would have my reasons that made sense, and I would be able to articulate. Like I said, I mean, I can respect somebody that can articulate their position. Okay, got it. I can completely disagree, but I know where you stand, and I know that you can articulate where you stand, which is important to me. It's important to me. So, I mean, he made the Trump question bigger than it really had to be, quite honestly. Yeah, I voted for Trump because I couldn't vote for Hillary. Boom. There's a lot of people in this audience that felt the same way. There it is. Of course, I'm going to push back. Like, what do you mean? And, again, we all adults here. So, again, people will have to make their own decisions as to how they feel about him. I'm going to reach out to Mr. Yates and try to get him on the air as well. And, again, we'll take it from there. Next week is going to be real interesting. I mean, we started this morning with Ben Lindy's conscious in the room. Yeah, Ben Lindy's conscious. Not Ben Lindy, but his conscious was in the room this morning. That's right. It's crazy waters, man. Crazy. John Coleman was dull today. I don't know. We will have to make that decision as we get closer. How do you feel about, the Democrats and Republicans and moving forward with this impeachment inquiry? Did you hear about the Black Florida principal who got fired after saying that he couldn't confirm that the Holocaust actually happened? Yeah, now his ass is in a sling. Yeah. I'll give you the details in just a minute. But first, another phone call. Let's go to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good morning, Nathan. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Pleasant sounding and non-threatening black man. Welcome.
Yes, sir. I'm wishing a great weekend on you and your family, and I hope everybody stays warm and out of harm's way. Eve Bolton, no. I mean, I think we missed one salient point that she said, that Cincinnati FC was going to go down regardless of our vote. Didn't she say something like that?
Correct, she did.
Yeah. Do we want that type of ethos around black children, around black inner city children? You're going to be poor anyway, so just listen to what we tell you. Do you want that kind of ethos around women? He's a much bigger man. If he wants it, you might as well just give it to him. That was a very big statement that she said with that. It tells a lot about her character and the type of stuff, the type of energy they're going to have around our children and in rallying for our children. I don't want that energy around mine if they attended Cincinnati Public. I don't know about you, but I don't want that kind of energy around my children. That was a very weak-ass answer that she gave that was going to be probably spun into, to some white lady tears if you'd have pressed her on it. You know what I mean?
I follow you. And I can't say in terms of when you use the word ethos, overall philosophy, I can't say that, some of what my concerns I have are very closely related to your flow when it comes to Eve Bolton. However,
Yeah.
we all adults. Let's look at it on the flip side. The other side is maybe they were between a rock and a hard place. Like she said, maybe they could see, she could see from the school board. I'm not making excuses. This is nothing for just for conversation. Okay. Maybe they could see from the school board that the powers that be were going to try to go around them and make it happen anyway. So they figured, you know what? Let's just try to do what we can and get the best scraps we can get. Is there any valor in that position when you're dealing with certain realities, caught between a rock and a hard place, so to speak?
For 500 years, Black, we've been here fighting. Very little compromise. And I'll be damned if I go for a compromise that involves the children. Alt middle is steadfast and remains for the children. How dare her say something like that and expect us to just go along with it? I wish you would have pressed her like you were pressing the brother. At least gave her a soft press anyway. That was a very inappropriate answer by her. And she, and it kind of is a microcosm of why, what happened to the schools under the last regime and Mary Ronan. And it's a indicator of what's going to happen. You're just going to keep getting bullied around. So when you Black children graduate from this school district, when you go out in life, don't try to become nothing and do nothing wise, because you're just going to get bullied around your Black kids after all. The white man's going to get what he wants. I'm telling you, that's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't want that type of ethos around our children. This heifer has got to go. She was already on school board. Do not reelect her. That's what I'm saying. We need to find strong-ass candidates to be the stewards of our children. Not people who finna go along just to get along. Black folks been doing that for 500 years. Going along just to get along. Then we got, now we got professional Negroes cutting deals on the side on us. Who's really riding for our children, Nathan?
Well, the alt middle, of course.
No, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, you did. You did know that. But I mean, other than us, that goes without saying. But other than us, of these school board candidates, these menial, trifling ass school board candidates that we have posted in front of us, who of them do you really trust to ride for our children? Not compromised by any other stuff that they've been into, any other governmental factions, but they are really there to ride for the children of CPS. Of all the ones you've had on your show, which ones do you trust the most? May I ask that, or do you rather not be put in that position to answer that?
Well, you know what? I've said it already. I mean, I've been quite upfront about my concerns about the various school board members.
Okay.
So I'll continue to do that between now and Tuesday.
I respect that. Yeah, I didn't really catch Judge Coleman's interview in its entirety. Once I saw the piling on got to go on, I'm like, wait, all right, I can see what's going on. But I'll tell you this. There was a guy who was before him that was much worse of an Uncle Tom. His name was Kendall Coles. Some of you long-term lawyers that may have been around can identify that. Maybe what's the guy running? What's the guy running for prosecutor name?
You talking about Gabe or you talking about Fanon?
Fanon, yeah, maybe he's been around a while. Maybe he could tell you. Kendall Coles was a scrub, the worst Uncle Tom you've ever seen.
Is that right?
But oh yeah, he was bad. I met him a couple times. It was just like, dude. He was my family court magistrate. It was just like, all right, dude. You got to go. You need to be up out of here. And I think he started in the prosecutor's office. He was complete clown. But that's all I got. I appreciate you taking my call. I'm just sitting here withering after listening to Eve Bolton's call, and that it was going to go down anyway. I have a real issue with that. But That's all I got. And thanks for taking my call, B. I'll holler at you Monday. Peace.
Take it easy. Appreciate it. That's all I need. And with that, that's my time, folks. Thank you for being here. I'll be back with you bright and early on Monday morning at 8 a.m. We'll chop it up. I think Monday's show and Tuesday's show will be a little bit longer as we get ready for the election. There's a few more interviews I want to catch up with, and perhaps I can secure them between now, the weekend, and by Tuesday as well. So you can use all the information from all the different sources to make the best available choice for yourself. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to my guests, all of the callers, all the interaction. I really appreciate it. Check out the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. It'll be live today. There's a brand new Truth to Power podcast that was up yesterday. And expect more from Sin Digital Media. Look for more. All right. Keep an ear out for us. And with that, I'll leave you with the immortal words of Jay Electronica. That's right. The great turn that down, DJ. The great prophet Jay Electronica, who said, quote, "Life is like a dice game. One roll can land you in jail, or cutting cake, blowing kisses in the rice rain." Remember that, and we'll catch up real soon. I'm out.